Greetings and welcome to my channel. Let me be clear, if you are an individual who can be easily offended or triggered by different opinions concerning race, religion, sex, sexual preference, gender, politics, geopolitics, or basically anything at all, please be advised to discontinue at this point. To continue viewing from this point is an agreement that you are watching this video despite receiving a clear warning that you should not, and you relinquish all rights to complain to any authority or seek any compensation from myself or from the platform hosting the video. I thank you for your time and attention, and if you've decided to continue watching, I salute your fortitude.
If heaven does exist, I'm worried that I get up there and there's a load of people who I know who annoyed me in this life, and suddenly you're on this place with them forever. People who are a pain in the arse, and suddenly, hiya Carl, oh you're dead, are you? Oh Jesus, you made it, did you? Forever.
Something's in the water, I think. I think it's in the water, and it might be the same shit that's turning the frickin' frogs gray. You know what I mean? You know, Alex.
I have a different view of the history. I used to see it the way you do. I don't anymore.
Kind of funny. Is he all there? Like, mentally?
I think so. He's just an odd guy. It's kind of weird.
I mean, should we be worried?
No.
Right.
No.
Hey Chris, how you doing, mate? Good to see you. Hurricane Paro, how you doing? Good to see you. LVA Paul. I haven't seen you in ages, man. Absolutely ages. How are you doing? How are you doing, stranger? I don't know, maybe you were unsubbed. It's not a new channel. I mean, it was a new channel, but it's not anymore. I've had it for a while. How are you? How are you doing? That's good to know. We don't go over to Rumble very often. Mainly just when I want to watch a movie or something and share it. Like have a watch party. Right. Let me get my shit together. So yesterday, how was your day? How was your Saturday? Did you know about the Tommy Robinson march and everything? Coffee. It's funny because there's no, I'm not seeing any real content on it. Me and Watch rocked it. Me and Watch rocked it. I just said that, didn't I? Me and Watch rocked it. Me and Rox watched it. We were following it for a couple of hours to see if anything, I was kind of the way they were dealing with it, I was expecting things to kick off. But as far as I know, nothing happened. So this Hook Global is obviously an AI channel saying that this is live. This is not live. This is not live. This was yesterday. They were only reporting
thousands. There were thousands. Thousands of people went to the Tommy Robinson March. And thousands of people went to the pro-Iran in 78 years since the Nakba, right? There were about 1,000 people at the Iran one, and there were about 1 million people at the Tommy Robinson March. All these people think that it's live today. Yeah, Paul, it is rubbish on phones. Tommy Robinson is a Mossad asset. He's working for Israel, and actually, it's just...
interests. But who is he really working for? When we look into the background of the organization he founded, the English Defence League, we could take the view that it was intended to be an offshoot of the terrorist Zionist organization, the JDL. Now, the first time that the English Defence League was registered officially on Companies House was by Israeli soldier Roberta Moore. The company was originally incorporated as the EDL English Defence League Limited. However, it was later renamed to Jewish Defence League JDL UK Limited. The second time that the EDL was registered on Companies House was by Helen Sheila Gower. It was incorporated as the English Defence League, EDL. However, just a month later, it officially changed its name to the English and Jewish Defence League, EDL Limited. Now, it's relevant that the initial registration was carried out by the former Israeli soldier, Roberta Moore. Roberta Moore is pictured here with the vice chair of the Zionist
The former Israeli soldier.
Zionist Federation at the time, Jonathan Hoffman.
Members of the Racist English Defence League, or EDL, attended a demonstration that Hoffman helped organise. He is photographed alongside Roberta Moore, the founder of the EDL's Jewish division. She will later express her admiration for Anders Breivik, the neo-Nazi who murdered 77 people in Norway.
When Roberta Moore was asked if the EDL was exploiting the Zionist movement, she replied, "If anything, we are exploiting them."
I've received these packages today.
He's admired somewhat as one of the brains of the EDL. He's just got a delivery of quotes from the Quran from his researcher in Israel.
Tommy Robinson's co-founder at the English Defence League was an individual who called himself Paul Ray. Paul Ray, prior to founding the EDL with Robinson, infiltrated the International Solidarity Movement, a pro-Palestine organisation which Rachel Corrie had been a member of. Paul Ray infiltrated and spied on this organisation and then submitted the information he gathered to several different intelligence agencies. Following his work for Israel, Paul Ray founded the English Defence League with Tommy Robinson.
You've had a pro-Israel stance for as long as I've known you.
Since the first day.
It's important to remember, the first time that the English Defence League was registered officially was by Israeli soldier Roberta Moore. Roberta Moore is pictured here alongside the head of the Canadian branch of the JDL and the genocidal Israeli politician Moshe Feiglin, who said, "Every child, every baby in Gaza is an enemy."
מה יותר מוסרי מלמחוק כל נוכחות של האסלאם או הנאציזם הזה, נער, זקן, טף ונשים, מרצועת עזה.
One of the reasons they chose Hebrew apparently was they didn't. They apparently they take the piss out of Arabics for some of the pronunciation, and yet, unfortunately, I think Hebrew sounds even fucking worse, man. Listen, it's like not everybody speaking it. I guess it's just some voices. This guy's voice does my head in. And absolutely, his name's not Tommy Robinson. So can we stop calling him Tommy Robinson? Because that's not his fucking name. His name's, I think it's Stephen something or other. It's not Tommy Robinson. He did what all Zionists do and changed his name. Now, it's important to note that just because somebody changes their name doesn't mean that they're a Zionist. Right? I know one person at least that changed their name, and it was because for protection, for her own protection, she changed her name. Not because she was a Zionist, but because she had nasty people. Rather, a nasty person. Ex-husband looking for her. So, not all people that change their names are Zionists, but a lot of Zionists change their names.
The JDL, the Jewish Defense League, was formally categorized as a terrorist organization by the FBI in the United States, following decades of plotting bombings and assassinations on US soil. It was founded by Mir Kahan,
people like, it's just a bit too much of a coincidence, isn't it? JDL, EDL, the Defense League. These people don't have imaginations. They are incapable of having new ideas and thinking of new things. They keep doing the same things and replaying them and just giving them slightly different names. Modern Hebrew, Paul, unfortunately, there is only the evidence does not support there being an ancient Hebrew. It was. It's heavily disputed, but because of the way of the world, most people don't know that. Mainstream British Jewish organisations and community leaders have constantly denounced Yaxley Lennon. It is Stephen Yaxley Lennon, isn't it? I mean, I'm sorry if you're one of my subscribers and you've got a double-barreled name, maybe think about losing it. Losing that hyphen. Dude, this is obviously coming from your AI. And that's it. Yes, Stephen Christopher Yaxley Lennon. I mean, it doesn't roll off the tongue like Tommy Robinson, does it? Tommy Robinson. Hey, what a lovely English name. Robinson. What's the name? It's Tommy. Tommy Robinson. Not Stephen Christopher Yaxley Lennon. What that says is, hang on a sec, are you a fucking toff or something? Stephen Christopher Yaxley Lennon. Like, where did you grow up again? Luton, was it? Just needs to add the Cohen or Goldberg, yeah. or I don't know. Wouldn't even surprise me if somehow he was fucking related to royalty. So yesterday the news was reporting saying they were talking about they were calling them football hooligans. All of his supporters in the early days were football hooligans. They didn't actually say anything about racism, really. They just said they were football hooligans. But they did note the fact that there are good people, normal people who have joined the movement. The trouble is the people leading the movement are still the same people. So
well-known Israeli fascist who advocated for the complete ethnic cleansing of Palestine.
If I were the Minister of Defense, there wouldn't be one Arab left here.
I want the Arabs out.
Are you encouraging your people to go out on the streets and to attack Arabs as has happened in...
I call upon the Jews to do anything imaginable and anything possible which will encourage Arabs to get out of this country.
Does that mean attacking?
Anything.
it's funny, a lot of people feel like that about you lot. Like, imagine that. Imagine going into a country, stealing it, and then forcefully ejecting everybody. Imagine if that's what actually happens in the UK. Imagine that they start forcefully ejecting people from the UK, classing them as terrorists, indigenous, English people, your nan. And they decide that no, now they're terrorists because they're English, and England is no longer England. It's fucking. I gotta rein it in. I gotta rein it in because I'm gonna say too much. I'm gonna say things that get me in trouble. He doesn't pretend to be Jewish, but I'll tell you what, he smells like it. Come and join me, squirrel. What's up, JP? Iron Realm Media. How you doing, man? Good to see you. Come and join me. Somebody come and join me. You know what I'm like. I get pissed off if I'm sat here on my own. Talking to myself.
Impossible.
But the connections of Tommy Robinson and the English Defence League to the JDL.
Robinson. No, not Tommy Robinson. Stephen Christopher Yaxley Lennon. That's his name.
Do not end there. One of the earliest supporters of the EDL and a regular speaker at their rallies outside the Israeli embassy was none.
That was the thing as well yesterday. There weren't many, but there were a couple of Israeli flags and amongst all of the St. George's crosses and Union Jacks. There were some Iranian flags as well. There were more Iranian flags than Israeli flags. But how many people know what the Israeli flag symbolizes? What it was actually when it was first designed, what the idea was behind its design. 2 blue lines, the top and the bottom, with the Star of David in the middle. It's a representation of Greater Israel. And one of those lines is representing the river, and one of those lines is representing the sea. And I'm not going to say it, but it's from one point to the other.
Other than Rabbi Nachum Shifrin.
How would you feel if one day your children or your grandchildren are saying 5 times a day, Allah Akbar? Well, this is what is coming down on you here and now.
Do you know what Allah Akbar means? Do you know what that actually means, you fucking dick? Allah Akbar means God is great. That's what it means. God is great. Allah Akbar. I'm pretty sure. I might be wrong. But I'm pretty sure it just means God is great. So, you're denying God.
It will be recalled on this day that it was the EDL that started the liberation of England.
Nachum Shifrin was the driver for the founder of the JDL, Meir Kahan. So the question has to be asked, was Tommy Robinson's English Defence League founded to be an offshoot of the Zionist terrorist organisation, the JDL? Tommy Robinson's relationship with the JDL was so close that in January 2011, the Canadian branch of the JDL, led by Meir Weinstein, officially announced that it was forging ties with Robinson's English Defence League. The JDL even organised support rallies specifically for Robinson and the EDL. During a 2011 event at the Toronto Zionist Centre, Tommy Robinson addressed the JDL. The JDL even went on record praising Tommy Robinson as a shining star of democracy, quote unquote. Robinson cited his Zionist credentials.
I notice you're wearing a shirt or a button that says I'm a Zionist. What does a Zionist mean to you?
Well, a Zionist is someone who believes in a homeland for Jewish people.
My definition when I've looked at that is Israel first.
It means Israel first?
Yes.
Okay.
Robinson actively differentiated himself from the British National Party.
Those groups differ in many ways because those are just Nazis backward.
Were you part of the BNP at one time?
I was part of the BNP in 2004.
Former BNP leader Nick Griffin went on record describing the process whereby the EDL and the BNP went in separate directions.
The leadership of the EDL and the thing as a whole, it is quite simply a Zionist front organisation, which is financed in the end from the United States. And its purpose is to heighten and encourage a clash of civilizations, because the neocons and the far right of the Zionist spectrum, the Likud Kahanists, they want Europeans and Muslims fighting on the streets of Europe, so that when they then, as they want to ethnically cleanse Palestine of all the Palestinians, a lot of public opinion thinks, well, I wish we could do that in Britain, wish we could do it in France or Denmark, and that's what the EDL is there for. It's a false flag front group run by and financed by Zionists.
When Tommy Robinson had legal troubles around a decade ago, his legal fees were covered by none other than the Middle East Forum, which was quoted 13 times by Anders Breivik in his manifesto that he released before killing over 70 people. The Middle East Forum is headed by Greg Roman, a former employee of the Israeli Ministry of Defense and the Israeli Foreign Ministry. Philanthropist Nina Rosenwald is on the board of the Middle East.
Should never use that word with these people. They're not philanthropists.
Forum and financially backed a number of organizations funding Tommy Robinson. She's nicknamed the Sugar Mama of anti-Muslim hate, and her organization, the Gatestone Institute, regularly publishes pieces defending Tommy Robinson. Nina Rosenwald is a former director and vice president of the Zionist Organization of America. Another key figure at the Zionist Organization of America, Robert Shillman, employed Tommy Robinson alongside Ben Shapiro and Katie Hopkins as his Shillman Fellows at the David Horowitz Freedom Center.
Big round of applause for Israel. Yes, come on, Israel.
Palestine. Why would you support Palestine?
We have to remember that Robert Shillman was a director of the Friends of the IDF. And here we see Robert Shillman speaking at the Zionist Organization of America and describing his pen and his checkbook as weapons.
With this pen and my checkbook, I provide ammunition. I wield a pen to provide ammunition to those organizations like ZOA who are on the front lines in this battle.
Shillman's funding allowed Rebel Media to pay Robinson a substantial salary. Rebel Media is run by Ezra Levant, who Robinson cites as the person who created him.
Ezra helped me, coached me, trained me, created me. So I'm very grateful to Ezra Levant. I'm very grateful to, and I know at the time, Dr. Bob's here, I know at the time Dr. Bob was sponsoring my employment. I didn't know that at the time. I didn't know what Shillman Fellow meant at the time. But Dr. Bob was supporting Rebel, who was supporting me.
Now, Shillman has recently gone on record, on camera, in an interview with Tommy Robinson, and stated he will support the protest, providing $100,000.
So I'm happy to tell you today that I've come to the conclusion, the decision.
Wow, how much plastic surgery have you had, mate? That guy doesn't look real. I mean, are you actually fucking kidding me?
Fuck off. It's such a lovely...
Hello, you cunt!
Wow.
That I will support the Unite the Kingdom rally to happen on May 16th.
So, I've just contacted the production company to let them know that there is an invoice and money on its way. Dr. Bob Shillman donated $100,000.
Double Down News reported on the relationship.
We were pointing out yesterday while we were watching it just how much that event must have cost, because they went all out. They had huge, great big screens. They had the stage, they had the sound system, multiple sound systems, and yeah, that 100,000 probably covered the cost of that. How much they made on top? Quite a substantial amount, I imagine. I think Tommy Robinson's sitting pretty now. I didn't realise, right, I like Katie Hopkins. I thought she was, I liked, you know, during the coup and stuff, I was watching her and I liked what she was saying. She seemed, you know, like most celebrities, she's not the sharpest tool in the box, but she seemed nice. But my opinion has completely changed now. I had no idea that she was a...
relationship between Robert Shillman and Tommy Robinson as far back as 2021. We reported on it again in 2024. It seems the news cycle is only just catching up to the investigative work that we have done here previously. In October 2025, the individual known as Tommy Robinson traveled to Israel at the invitation of Israel's Minister for Diaspora Affairs, Amit Chikli. This trip was paid for by the Israeli government. It included visits to the Knesset, the site of the Nova Festival, and the settlements in the West Bank, an area which Tommy Robinson dutifully refers to as Judea and Samaria, using strictly Zionist terminology. During his trip to Israel, Tommy Robinson was informed by an interviewee that there was a special place in hell for Britain.
they really helped give birth to the Jewish state in World War I. The Balfour Declaration, the San Remo Accords, the mandate for a Jewish Palestine, the UK was at the forefront of that. And then they turned on us.
Yeah, I was about to say that.
They turned on us, man. And therefore they have a special place in hell.
This proud patriot, all he could do was stick his tongue out gormlessly, as people like you and the people of this country were told there was a special place in hell for them. When Israel killed 3 former British soldiers with a targeted airstrike in Gaza, what was the response of Britain's patriot, Tommy Robinson? He said, British people that do aid work in Gaza are cucks, play stupid games, win stupid prizes. How can Tommy Robinson define himself as a patriot but speak with such callousness about the death of former British soldiers? I think that Tommy Robinson owes an apology to the families of John Chapman, James Kirby, and James Henderson. All of these connections certainly would cause you to question where Tommy Robinson's ultimate loyalties lie, especially when he has been pictured on the top of a tank in the Israeli-occupied Golan Heights of Syria and stated so clearly.
Oh man, the tiny little boy trying to look tough with his paunch.
To question where Tommy Robinson's ultimate loyalties lie, especially when he has been pictured on the top of a tank in the Israeli-occupied.
Look at that, you fat little bastard. He's like 5 foot nothing, and obviously weighs about fucking 80 kilos.
Golan Heights of Syria, and stated so clearly that if a war was to develop in the Middle East, he would actively fight on the side of Israel.
If there was a war tomorrow, I would be there on the front line fighting for Israel.
What Tommy Robinson is doing now could be interpreted as just that. At Double Down News, you have a very unique and rare.
That's patriotic, isn't it? He's a proper patriot, proper English boy. Old Tommy Robinson. He'd be on the front line fighting for who? For England? No. Don't be silly. England's been owned by fucking Israel for the last 200 years anyway. Yes, I know Israel hasn't existed for 200 years. You know what I mean. Serious, like, nobody's going to come and join me. $15 people here.
Thing. It's an organization which is working every day to give you the information that you need to understand the way power works around.
Now, I don't know about this low-key fella. I don't know about him. I've heard some stuff. I'm not even sure what it is that I heard. All I know is that I think he wasn't he the rapper? Isn't he the guy that got up on stage and said something really stupid? He got up on stage and said something really stupid. But I can't remember exactly what it was. JP, mate, I'll put up with a bit of breeze. Of course I will. I'll always put up with a bit, like, dude. Always happy to speak to you, man. Let's go and look at some of that, shall we? Oh. Right, now, this channel, History Morsels, is an AI channel. And these are all the songs I sang last night. And I don't fucking like all the AI shit, you know that. But it's funny, right? Me and Roxanne last year did a real, like, we did some deep, heavy research into Israel and into Judaism and Persia and the whole region. And finally, there's other channels getting way more views than we ever got, but talking about exactly the same things.
What if everything you were taught about the ancient Israelites was pointing to the wrong people? Not because of faith, not because of religion, but because of history, because of DNA, because of maps that are hundreds of years old. Right now, the word Jewish is used to describe one of the most studied groups of people in human history. But here is the question almost nobody is asking. What does that word actually mean? Where did it come from? And more important...
Does anybody remember? I've been pointing, like, what does that mean? Where does ish come from? British, Jewish, Swedish. What's the ish about?
Importantly, does the DNA match the story? Because here is what the science says. 40% of all Ashkenazi Jewish people alive today, that's roughly 10 million human beings, trace their entire maternal lineage back to just 4 women, 4 founding mothers. And those 4 women were not from the Middle East. Their DNA markers place them firmly in Europe, not in ancient Canaan, not along the Jordan River, in Europe. Now stop for a second and think about what that means. Because in traditional Torah law, Jewish identity passes through the mother. The mother is everything. So if the 4 founding mothers of the largest Jewish population on earth were European women, what does that tell us about who is actually descended from the ancient tribes of Israel?
Careful. Careful. Getting a bit close to the truth here, man.
This is not a political statement. This is not an attack on anyone's faith. This is a question that historians, geneticists, and archaeologists have been quietly debating for decades. And today, we are going to...
Funny, because none of us normal folk get to know about that, do we? No, we're just all told, no, this is how it is. We're not told this is one version of how it is, but, you know, there's a whole bunch of people that dispute that. And they say, no, it's something else. We're never given all the information.
Follow that question wherever it leads, because the evidence leads somewhere very surprising. It leads to a forgotten empire that rose and fell in the mountains between the Black Sea and the Caspian Sea. It leads to a king who made one of the most extraordinary political decisions in all of medieval...
Sasquatch. Have you just got up? As you can see, I'm waiting for somebody to come and join me.
And it leads through slave ships, ancient maps, and DNA laboratories to the coast of West Africa. Stay with me, because by the end of the...
West Africa? That's right next to where I am now. Okay, now. What are the odds I'd end up here, eh?
This video, you are going to see a very different map of ancient history than the one you grew up with. Let us start with a word, because this whole story begins with a translation error that most people have never noticed. The original Hebrew word is Yehudi. Say it out loud, Yehudi. In ancient Hebrew, this word has a very specific meaning. It refers to someone from the tribe of Judah, one of the 12 tribes of ancient Israel. And the name Judah itself comes from a Hebrew root word meaning praise of Yah, a reference to the divine name. So Yehudi was a tribal designation, a bloodline identifier. It meant you were descended from a specific group of people in a specific region of the ancient Near East. Now, somewhere in the process of translation, moving from Hebrew to Greek to Latin to Old English, something happened to that word. It became Jew. And then, even more strangely, it became Jewish, with an ish at the end. And here's where it gets linguistically interesting. The suffix ish in the English language has a very particular function. Think about how we use it. Boyish does not mean the same thing as boy. Greenish does not mean the same thing as green. Reddish means sort of red, kind of red, approximately red.
There you go. There you go. Ish means sort of a mix with, like, it's not a, I love the way that this AI put it. Boyish is not the same as boy. A girl can be boyish, but she's not a boy. So English, British, Irish, Scottish, they're just telling us that we're an absolute fucking mixture. We're not. English isn't a it doesn't mean that you have ancestral rights. Nice one, dude. I have to in 13 minutes. I have to go and check my washing. I've got 2 loads of washing on today. I've paid for 3 loads.
Foolish means having qualities associated with a fool, but it does not mean you are one. So what exactly does Jewish mean? According to the rules of the English language, it means approximately like a Jew, in the general direction of Judah, sort of related to the original concept, but not quite the same thing. Now, most scholars would say this is an innocent quirk of translation, and maybe it is, but it raises a question worth asking. Why did that particular suffix stick? And does it matter? I want you to hold that question in your mind as we move forward, because the linguistic shift is just the surface layer. Underneath it, there's a much bigger story, and that story takes us to a place most Americans have never heard of. The year is 740 AD. The place is a vast territory stretching from the northern shores of the Caspian Sea all the way west to the Crimean Peninsula. This region, sitting between what is today Russia, Georgia, Azerbaijan, and Ukraine, was home to one of the most powerful empires in the medieval world. They were...
That's the other thing as well. Like when we think about things that happen in history, and they're given these different names, and we hear these different names for places and stuff. And there's not this immediate association with the new name and the actual region that's being spoken about. So
underneath it, there's a much bigger story, and that story takes us to a place most Americans have never heard of. The year is 740 AD. The place is a vast territory stretching from the northern shores of the Caspian Sea all the way west to the Crimean Peninsula. This region, sitting between what is today Russia, Georgia, Azerbaijan, and Ukraine, was home to one of the most powerful empires in the medieval world. They were called the Khazars. The Khazar Empire was a Turkic state. Their people were not Arab, not Semitic, not descended from the ancient tribes of Canaan. They were a steppe people, warriors and traders who had built an incredible commercial civilization at the crossroads between the Christian Byzantine Empire to the west and the expanding Islamic Caliphate to the south and east. And that geographical position created a serious political problem. The Byzantine emperor wanted the Khazars to convert to Christianity. The Islamic Caliph wanted them to convert to Islam. Both empires were aggressively expanding. Both saw the Khazar Empire as a prize or a buffer zone, and both wanted the Khazars on their side of the religious divide. And King Bulan had to make a decision that would define the future of his people. Here is what the historical record shows, and this is documented in multiple medieval sources, including correspondence that still exists today between Khazar royalty and the Jewish community in Spain. King Bulan chose a third option. He converted himself and his entire ruling class to Judaism, not because of a divine vision, not because he had read the Torah and been spiritually moved, though that may have played a role, but largely because Judaism gave him a political escape hatch. By adopting a religion that was not aligned with either Constantinople or Baghdad, he could maintain neutrality. He could trade with both sides. He could be the independent power in the middle. It was, in many ways, one of the most brilliant political moves of the medieval era. But here is the consequence that echoes through history. Over the next century or two, Judaism spread from the royal court outward to the general Khazar population. A Turkic steppe people with no ancestral connection to Abraham, Isaac, or Jacob began to practice the religion, the customs, and eventually to use the identity of ancient Israel. Now I want you to pause here and just think about that.
Okay, let's pause and think about that, shall we? Welshish. No, there is no Welshish. There's just Welsh, man. Now, why is that? And exactly, Ricardo, why aren't we Christianish? Or Christish? Muslish and Christish. Israeli should be that is the most ish, isn't it? Not all Israelis are Jew-ish. Near is Christish. He believes, like, he calls himself a Yeshua believer. So he believes in Yeshua, as in Jesus. Jesus! 17 people sat here desperately waiting for entertaining content. And most making no contribution whatsoever, other than just being a number up there in the corner of the screen. One of the 16.
Millions of people adopting an identity not through ancestry, but through conversion and cultural assimilation. What are the long-term effects?
No, but it's become ancestry now, hasn't it? It's become ancestry. Now it's been going on for such a long time that now there is an ancestral link to what it is now.
Of something like that. Here's what is interesting. Most mainstream historians acknowledge the Khazar conversion happened. This is not fringe history. It is documented in Jewish encyclopedias, in medieval...
That's how me and Rox learned about it last year.
Chronicles, in Arabic...
And by the way, we've both got copies of the Jewish encyclopedia from 1902, I think it is. Full PDFs of the Jewish encyclopedia, and it's all in there as well.
Historical texts and in surviving Khazar correspondence. The debate among scholars is about the scale. How many Khazars converted, and how much did that conversion contribute to the later Ashkenazi Jewish population of Eastern Europe? And that brings us back to the DNA. Let me tell you about a study that shook the academic world when it was published. In 2013, a team of researchers led by Dr. Eran El-Haik at Johns Hopkins University published a paper in the journal Genome Biology and Evolution. The paper examined the genetic origins of Ashkenazi Jewish populations, and what they found was striking. The study concluded that Ashkenazi Jews show the strongest genetic similarity to populations from the Caucasus region, the area historically associated with the Khazar Empire, rather than to populations from the ancient Levant, which is modern-day Israel and Palestine. Now, this study was immediately controversial. Other geneticists pushed back. The mainstream position, supported by a different set of studies, is that Ashkenazi Jews do show meaningful genetic connections to Middle Eastern populations, while also showing European admixture. The debate is ongoing.
They don't like... I heard that they don't like DNA tests being done in Israel. They don't like their citizens to do a DNA test and find out where they come from. I heard. I can't say if it's true or not. Just saying I heard it.
And genuinely complex. But here is what virtually all studies agree on.
I also heard that we've landed on the moon, you know, so...
That 40% figure about the 4 founding mothers is real. It comes from a 2006 study published in the American Journal of Human Genetics. Using mitochondrial DNA, which is passed from mother to child, researchers traced the maternal lineage of Ashkenazi Jews and found that 40% descend from just 4 women, and those 4 women's genetic signatures match European lineages, not Middle Eastern ones. What does this mean? Scholars have different interpretations. Some say these 4 women were European converts who married into already established Jewish communities. Some say it reflects centuries of European admixture after the initial Levantine population arrived in Europe. and some, including researchers who follow the Khazar hypothesis, argue it reflects a founding population that was never from the ancient Near East in the first place. The point is not to tell you which interpretation is correct. The point is to show you that the question of genetic origin is genuinely open. And it matters, not for religious reasons, but for historical ones. And here is where the story takes its most unexpected turn. Because while we have been focused on who might have adopted the identity of ancient Israel, there is an entirely separate body of evidence suggesting that the descendants of the actual ancient Israelites might still be here, just in a place nobody expected to look. I want to stop here for a second and ask you something directly. Before you heard about the Khazar Empire, before you saw any of this DNA evidence, what was your mental image of where the ancient Israelites ended up? Drop your answer in the comments, because I think most of us were taught a very specific story.
Drop your answer in the comments.
And this video is asking us to examine whether that story is complete. We need to talk about a tribe in southern Africa, and then we need to talk about a people in Nigeria, and then we need to look at a map from 1747. Let us start in Zimbabwe. The Lemba...
It's funny, isn't it? There's been this huge push of immigrants that have all come from West Africa and Nigeria. What are the odds? What are fucking odds, eh? The guy that's in my old room now, he's Nigerian. There was another lad that was here before, he was Nigerian. Most of the lucky men, they're all Nigerian and West African. But it's mostly Moroccans and Nigerians.
People are Bantu-speaking group living in Zimbabwe and South Africa. For generations, they maintained an oral tradition that was largely dismissed by outsiders. They claimed to be descendants of ancient Israelites, specifically of priests from Jerusalem who fled south through Africa centuries ago. They kept strict dietary laws reminiscent of Leviticus. They practiced male circumcision. They observed a day of rest. They had a sacred object they called the Noma Lungundu, which their oral tradition described in ways eerily similar to descriptions of the Ark of the Covenant. For most of the 20th century, anthropologists filed this under interesting but unverifiable folklore. Then came the DNA. In 1999, a landmark study was published in the American Journal of Human Genetics. Researchers examined the Y chromosome markers of the Lemba men, and specifically, they looked for something called the Cohen modal haplotype. Here is what the Cohen modal haplotype is. It is a specific pattern of Y chromosome markers found at unusually high rates among men who identify as Kohanim, the priestly class descended from Aaron, brother of Moses. Because the Cohen designation passes from father to son along with the Y chromosome, geneticists have been able to track this marker across populations. Among self-identified Jewish Kohanim, the Cohen modal haplotype appears in roughly 50% of men. Among the Lemba, the same marker appeared at similar or even higher rates, specifically in the Buba clan, which the Lemba tradition identifies as their founding priestly lineage. Think.
That is my alarm to go and check my washing. And it's going to be pretty boring while I'm not here. But that's your fault because nobody came up to join me.
Yeah, boy.
What's up, JP?
What's up, bro?
Listen, dude, I'm just sorting my washing out. I just gone to
No worries.
check it, and
No rush.
I'm making a coffee, and it's still. When I looked, it still had 4 minutes. So
all good.
The timer on that washing machine, it's sometimes it says it's going to take an hour, so I put an hour in, and I go up there, and it's like the alarm goes off, and it's still got fucking 15 minutes left or something. Right? This time, it's got 4 minutes. Why is it changing? Why does the length of the fucking wash keep changing, man? Because it does. It keeps changing. Anyway, just give me 5 minutes, man.
No worries.
We've got some liquid drum and bass. In fact,
Just enjoying a coffee and the smoke in the sun. So
I prefer. It's not that I prefer. It's just I like Kush sessions. Right, be back in a minute.
no worries. I'll be here. Right. Turn myself off. Right, come on. Oh. I something. So now where are you gonna be?
Don't tell me I can't. That's not an argument. Got you in my head. That's not part of it. Nothing I can do to divert my attention. Open up a box of knives and this feels like affection. And you're so intense to elements. Hands on my hands, no evidence. I set myself on fire and wait to crash. Wear your darkness like a mask, even though it can't last.
Looking forward.
there's no evidence. I set myself on fire and wait to crash where your darkness like a mask, even though it can't last. It's the only one I'm seeing. Touch me in the crystal. Can't wait to put my hands on you. It's the only one I'm seeing. I hate to let go. It's the only thing I know how to do. Voice a habit, voice a habit, voice a habit, voice a habit, voice a habit. Started innocent, a lie I've never meant to create. I was young and I was foolish, wasn't ready for a heartbreak. I got in too deep, but believe me when I say I tried 100 times to tell you, I just couldn't find the right way. I'm sorry, I lied to you, I lied to you, I lied to you. I hope that you're forgiving her, 'cause I don't see a life without you, without you. Oh, I'd do anything to make this right, or try to tell me what I gotta do. I got Hold me higher, hold me tighter, tighter. Hold me higher. I'm falling hard for you, falling hard for you, focusing on you, I'm falling into you. just can't reach. Pull me apart till there's nothing left. Now I don't know what's next. the bird, he welcomed into their home. Half of me is dry and half swimming out to sea, half filled up and half alone. Puzzled, gonna keep myself in one piece, trying out my body's power. You couldn't be what we wanted you to be, but electricity will give you but electricity will give you but electricity will give you gonna keep myself in one piece, trying out my body's power. You couldn't be what we wanted you to be, but electricity will give you but electricity will give you electricity will give
Let's see what kind of smoke this little guy makes. For science, And for the vlog, of course.
Boomba clot. This is no ordinary cigarette. This is some serious ganja. Feel the good vibes flowing through my whole body, man. This ganja is the bomb. Feel like I could hug every tree in this forest, man. Everything looking so airy. The birds them singing sweet melodies, the sun shining bright. Hamilton feeling like Jamaica right now, you know. Respect to Canada. Look at that little brother. Him just chilling, gathering him nuts. No worries in the world. That is the life, see? Yeah, man. Share the love. One love. The Bombo Club prank can wait. Right now, we just feel the rhythm of the universe. Feel that beat, that the heartbeat of Mother Earth, man. She got a good reggae vibe today. And I smoke of the ganja until I go blind. You know I smoke of the ganja all of the time. Just gotta let it flow. Be like the water flowing down the river. Easy now, little fuzzy man. No need for bad vibes. We all friends here.
Kind of fun. Is she all there? Like, mentally?
I think so. He's just an odd guy. It's kind of weird.
I mean, should we be worried?
No.
Right.
No.
Right, my apologies. My apologies for taking so long. I live in a hostel, what can I say? I live in a hostel. You can't always just do things when you want to do them because some other motherfucker's gone in there and decided they want to do it at exactly the same time as you. Anyway, I think I've got another 53 minutes. There we go. 3 loads of washing I'm having to do today. So let's have a look in the chat room. What have we got going on here? So JP had to drop out because of the wind. Dude, you could have just muted your mic, you plonker. And Ricardo, the last few days, we haven't really had that much. They've been seeding clouds. There's been a lot of clouds. I've been saying to Rox, you know, because quite often we have a video chat while I'm walking down to work, and I show her the sky. I'm like, if you'd paid $1,500, $2,000 for your holiday to come out to the Canary Islands, which are always guaranteed sunshine in May, definitely guaranteed sunshine in May. Not anymore. Not any fucking more, it's not. Now it's unpredictable. The weather's unpredictable.
Hello, you cunt!
Just checking, there's no cunts. Just checking, there's no cunts in sight. I'm up the mountain. Look at that. Not a cunt in sight, only myself.
So the link is pinned. What time is it? It's 12:15. I've still got washing on, which I'm going to go and have to sort out when in like 15, nearly an hour. It'd be nice to get some people up here chatting, so that when I do nip off to go and sort out my laundry, because I'm a domesticated single man Single middle-aged man living in a fucking hostel. Do you know how many? There's an old boy that's moved in, right? One guy moved out because he's gone to mainland Spain to go and work, and this old boy's moved in. It's just an old boy that can't afford to live in a fucking apartment anymore because the price is just ridiculous. So where were we? What were we talking about? Oh yeah. We were talking about DNA.
Think about that for a moment. A group of people in southern Africa with no contact with modern Jewish communities, carrying a genetic marker that is used as evidence of ancient Levitical priestly lineage. This was not a small sample. This was not a statistical fluke. This finding has been replicated and discussed in peer-reviewed journals. It is one of the most remarkable intersections of oral history and genetic science in modern research. Now let us move north to Nigeria. The Igbo people of southeastern Nigeria are one of the largest ethnic groups in Africa, and for centuries they have maintained a set of cultural practices that bear remarkable similarity to the laws recorded in the Hebrew Bible. Not vague similarities, specific ones. The Igbo practice circumcision on the 8th day after birth. This is not a common cultural practice across Africa. It is a very specific detail, and it matches Leviticus chapter 12, verse 3 exactly. The Igbo observe dietary restrictions that parallel the kosher laws of Leviticus. They have a seventh-day rest tradition that resembles the Sabbath as described in Deuteronomy. They have naming ceremonies, mourning rituals, and purity customs that align with details in the Pentateuch. Now, critics of this connection would say these could be coincidences. They could be the result of Christian missionary influence. They could be cultural parallels that developed independently. Those are fair points to raise, and they are debated by scholars. But here is what makes the Igbo case harder to dismiss as simple missionary influence. Many of these practices were documented by European explorers and missionaries in the 18th and 19th centuries, and the missionaries themselves noted with surprise that the Igbo already observed practices that matched the Old Testament before Christianity arrived. Here is a question I genuinely want you to think about, and leave your answer below. If we found a community in, say, Japan or Brazil that carried the Cohen modal haplotype and practiced 8th-day circumcision and Sabbath observance, would we take their historical claims seriously? Or does geography change how we evaluate evidence? Because I think that question reveals something important about how we've been taught to see African history. Now I want to show you something, a piece of cartographic evidence that does not get talked about in mainstream history classes.
We're showing you it in our mind's eye.
In 1747, a French cartographer named Jean-Baptiste Bourguignon d'Anville produced a highly detailed map of West Africa. This was not a casual sketch. D'Anville was one of the most respected geographers of the 18th century. His maps were used by European governments and trading companies. They were considered authoritative. On that map, along the coast of what is today the Republic of Benin, in the region between modern Nigeria and Ghana, there is a label. The map reads Judah, or in some versions, Uda, and in certain editions, the territory is labeled with language that translates to Kingdom of Judah. This is not a metaphor. This is not a religious naming by Christian missionaries. This is an 18th century cartographer labeling a geographic and political territory on the West African coast with a name that comes directly from the Hebrew tribe of Judah. Now, the city of Uda exists there today. It is in the modern nation of Benin, and Uda has another distinction in history. It was one of the major ports through which enslaved Africans were shipped across the Atlantic Ocean during the transatlantic slave trade. And here is where the history becomes both profound and painful. The Yoruba people, who inhabit much of this coastal West African region, use a word for this territory that sounds remarkably similar to the Hebrew tribal name. The linguistic connection has been noted by several researchers studying the etymology of West African place names. Now, I want to be careful here. Etymology can be misleading. Similar-sounding names can be coincidences. Professional historians rightly caution against over-interpreting phonetic similarities. But when you combine the map evidence with the DNA evidence from the Lemba, with the cultural practice evidence from the Igbo, with the oral traditions maintained across multiple West African communities, a pattern begins to emerge that is difficult to explain away with coincidence.
Whoa there. Don't go noticing patterns. Pattern recognition is anti-Semitic, I think. I'm pretty sure. Noticing Noticing patterns is anti-Semitic. I'm pretty sure it's in the new definition.
Alone. What some researchers have proposed, and this is a hypothesis, not a settled conclusion, is that a significant portion of the ancient Israelite diaspora moved not west through Rome and Europe, but south and then west through the African continent. That over centuries and millennia, descendants of ancient Hebrew tribes became integrated into African populations while maintaining remnants of their ancestral practices, and that when the transatlantic slave trade began, a portion of those descendants were among the millions taken across the ocean to the Americas and the Caribbean. So let us...
No, I know that over the last few years there's been an argument to say that actually this is bullshit and they didn't actually take millions of fucking black people over there, and that's why there's black people in America. There were already black people in America. Melanated skin was already a thing. Hey, that rhymes. Melanated skin was already a thing in the Americas.
Bring these two threads together, because what we are really looking at is a story about a name, the name Israel, and two very different groups of people who have some claim to connection with that name. On one side, a Turkic people from the Caucasus, who in the 8th century converted to Judaism for political reasons, who then, as their empire collapsed over the following centuries under pressure from Mongol invasions and the expansion of Kievan Rus, dispersed westward into Eastern Europe, who became the Ashkenazi Jewish population of Poland, Lithuania, Germany, and Russia, who carried Jewish culture, Jewish law, Jewish learning, and Jewish identity through centuries of persecution, through the Holocaust, and ultimately into the modern state of Israel. Their contribution to Jewish intellectual and cultural life is extraordinary. The Ashkenazi tradition produced some of the greatest philosophers, scientists, musicians, and legal scholars in recorded history. That cannot and should not be minimized.
And what should not be forgotten either is who owned the publishing companies and who were the peers that peer-reviewed and all of this stuff and said, yes, these are the greatest. These are the greatest. They just happen to be also of the same denomination, shall we say. Basically the same people, just vouching for themselves. Right. I just heard a blip. Ah. Welcome.
How's it going?
Oh, shut no. Applause, not fucking explosions.
Hey, drop bombs. Ricardo's in the house. I'm not using my my special microphone today because I don't know.
Actually, technically, dude, it's two dicks. We've got two dicks. There's two dicks here.
That's all right. You don't have to touch.
Because we're both we're both Richard. Were you christened Ricardo or were you christened Richard?
No, it's not actually my original name, but I changed it when I was like 16.
What? Oh, right. Did you change it to Ricardo? No. Have you ever been called Richard?
No.
What was your name before?
Yeah.
Oh, right.
It is my name.
Yeah.
But is this?
But you wanted to have the Spanish feel. You wanted the Ricardo. I don't like Richard. That's boring. Sounds fucking boring. I like Ricardo. It's more romantico.
Ricardo. It's cooler, isn't it? It's more of an aspirational thing because I love Spain. I've been all over
Yeah, but does
Spain.
Does that mean that you'll never be rich? Does that mean you'll never be rich?
Maybe. Who knows? Who can say? I'm not naturally a businessman, but I don't.
I'm Richie.
I don't see any reason
Maybe
why
I should have just.
I shouldn't get money for my talents.
I don't know if calling myself rich jinxed it. or Richie. Maybe Richie jinxes it. It's better than Richish. I could have
It's
been
been done a
Richish,
few
yeah.
times, you know. There was a,
I swear to
was
God,
a
I just thought of that
guy,
just before
Richie
you
Rich.
wrote that.
Mm-hmm.
But before you
The
wrote
rapper,
that, Iron Realm, dude, are you wearing earphones? Are you having difficulty with the sound not coming through very well?
No, I can hear.
You wearing
I can hear you
earphones?
fine, Rich.
Yeah, you wearing earphones?
No, I'm not at the moment.
No, right.
I'm not.
That explains. That explains something. No worries. So,
on the other side, sub-Saharan African populations who carry genetic
wear
markers,
headphones.
specifically the Cohen modal haplotype, that are used by mainstream genetics as evidence of ancient Levitical priestly descent, who practice customs documented before significant Christian influence that mirror Mosaic law with striking precision, who are recorded on 18th century maps in territories labeled with the name of the ancient tribe of Judah, and whose oral traditions, stretching back centuries, claim descent from the original Hebrew tribes. These two stories do not have to be in conflict. History is complicated. Identity is layered. People move.
history is not complicated. History is a lie. The story that we've been told does not match up with actual reality and facts and what actually happened. So that's why. Oh, no. It's complicated, man. History's complicated. Do you know why it's complicated? Because it only resides in the minds of men and women. But history is something that resides in our memory because it's something that happened, not something that's happening. So it's the people who are remembering it. Who are we listening to? Who's remembering what happened? Were they actually there? Because every single one of us is having a subjective experience. So from a fixed perspective as well, a subjective experience from a fixed perspective. So not everybody's getting the full picture. So whose historical memory are we relying on? You know? Identity.
Anyone who tells the story. People just tell the story differently. So
the victor always tells the story.
Yeah, but do we believe them though? I don't believe them.
Well, we have done for a long time.
I don't read the history books. Boring as shit. All the kings and how they killed people and offered their heads and just how we should defer to, bow down to authority and fear them and stuff. It's just it's all bullshit. It's all programming.
History is complicated because storytellers have to remember their lives. Yeah, absolutely. Alright, I'm going to find something else. Something else I saw last night. Where's it gone? YouTube trying to hide my history. Motherfuckers. Has anybody else of that? Where they've seen something. So it's in your history, you've watched it, it should be in your history and you go back and you can't find it anywhere.
You have.
your mic just I don't know if your mic just cut in at the end of what you were saying then, but it didn't make any sense what you just said. What did you just say?
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
I'm trying to get the levels right. I think that's not helping. I've got echo cancellation on. That's all good. Anyway, the other stream, I listened to it back. The last one I was on, when we were having problems with my mic, with my new microphone. And it was fine. I was fine for the first, 10 minutes or so. And then you started fiddling with the settings and everything, and then it went bad. So I don't know. I'm trying to get it right. That's all, I'm sort of okay at technical stuff. I can learn, but it's slow. Just building up my my equipment.
That's all right. You're a bit late doing it, dude. But
better late than never.
Better late than never, absolutely. Ivan, how you doing, mate?
I'm investing in what's important, music and audio and technology.
Oh, dude, I know. I first started doing that 20 years ago. I've always invested to make sure that I've got at least the ability to fucking do something on my own, like have a guitar and some sort of mediocre recording facility to be able to record and do shit. Man, what I used to have the most ramshackle setup. I had a setup that was it recorded everything to a cassette tape, just to a normal cassette tape, but you could have 4 tracks.
The signal's cutting out and disappearing.
Eh?
I don't know what's going on, but I'm gonna jump out and come back in.
Okay. We're going to listen to Tim Wallace-Murphy.
A small group of us have come into possession of a large collection of Templar artifacts that we have christened the Tomar Hoard, so called because of where they were originally found. These items were discovered by some grave robbers in the early 1960s and have recently been put together by a close friend and colleague who realizes their importance far outweighs their financial cost. There are 28 items in all, and their importance is not just their historical connection with the order, but the fact that they tend to reinforce the validity of the criticism of Pope Pius IX that the Templars were Gnostic from the very beginning and followers of the Johannite heresy. They were not Christian in the sense that any of our viewers would understand the term. To trace the origins of the Templars, you have to trace back the families who founded the order, and they claim to be descendants of the Mamadot, the 24 high priestly families of the Temple of Jerusalem at the time of Jesus. And their descendants, when Jerusalem was destroyed in AD 70, scattered throughout the known world, and they passed their teaching down from father to child down through the generations. And that's how the Templars and the later Freemasons came a lot closer to the true teachings of Jesus than you will ever find in any Christian church. Christianity does not arise from the teachings of Jesus. It arises from the distorted visions of a man called Saul of Tarsus, better known to Christians as St. Paul. He's the man who deified Jesus and declared Jesus was his Lord and Saviour, and that Jesus had somehow died as a humanized sacrificial goat to redeem us from sin. Jesus was a Jew, a Jewish teacher, a rabbi, teaching other Jews how to follow the law of God. He was not in the business of starting a new religion. He was in the business of simplifying his own religion. And his teachings can still be found in Christianity, but they're so deeply buried amongst a mass of dogma, lies and distortions, they're damnably difficult to find. The Templars rose to power very, very quickly because the foundation of the order was the fruition of a long-standing conspiracy. Bear in mind, the early 1100s, communications in Europe were incredibly bad. So for things to happen at the speed they did, they had been planned for a very long time. The Templar Order was founded somewhere between 1095 and 1118. They were a body that were founded to be the militant arm of the hidden families, the descendants of the Mamadot, known as Rex Deus. And they were not fighting for Christianity. They were fighting to regain their own true inheritance, the Holy Land of Israel. They were incredibly astute. They were supported by a network of secret families that ranged right throughout Europe, and they were given grants of land, towns, farms, mills, quarries, the whole bit. And the profits from this were channeled to the Holy Land to maintain their standing army, which was quite a considerable one. It was the first standing army in Europe since the fall of the Roman Empire. And to maintain it, they developed skills in banking and finance and land management, which have never been exceeded. They held land from the Baltic in the north to the Balearics in the south, from Portugal in the west, right through Europe, up to and including large slices of the Holy Land. They had business dealings in every climatic zone in Europe. They had their own fleet. They transported people to and from the Holy Land, as well as their own troops and their supplies. It was one hell of a big enterprise. They invented a precursor of today's credit card back in the 1200s, a precursor of our checkbook back in the 1200s. They even took a hand in what we would now call the package tour industry, encouraging pilgrimage and organizing it for people and making a profit from it. They were a truly remarkable order. Because of their commercial activities, they transformed the face of Europe. By protecting the pilgrimage routes, they enabled overland trade to be conducted safely. And so a new class of people began to emerge, called the mercantile classes, who started to accumulate capital for the first time. It was the foundation of capitalism.
Did you know that? Did you know that it was because of the Templars providing the protection along the Silk Road and whatever? That's where the guild, the trade and the guild of merchants came out of that. I thought merchants existed before then.
Don't know.
Like the mercantile class.
You could trace the etymology of the word mercantile. How far it goes back. It's interesting, yeah.
Go on, Gemini.
AI to the rescue.
Not to the rescue, just for a...
information gathering exercise. I use it occasionally. It's quite good.
Mercari.
Like
Mercari. The Mercari is the Latin root.
Mercari.
And their banking skills were such that they lent money to priests and princes, to bishops, to emperors, to kings, and even to popes. They were immensely powerful and seemingly invulnerable. And then, due to the greed of an evil French king, King Philip le Bel, there was a mass arrest on Friday the 13th in 1307, when nearly all the Templars in France were arrested, handed over to the tender mercies of the Inquisition for torture, and charged with heresy. It was never actually convicted as an order of any crime. Its leaders were, based on confessions extracted under torture.
Dude, I don't know what you're doing in the background there, but maybe you want to mute up while you're doing it.
Publicly renounced his confession and said he would not live a lie and that the order was innocent. He was cooked over a slow fire for his pains, so that his agony would be as prolonged as possible and his bones could be ground to dust. So the
We're being cooked over a fire here, look. It's a shame. I wish I should animate that, shouldn't I? I could totally animate that. That's where AI is useful.
There would be no relics for people to follow. A hell of a lot of them were burnt at the stake. Lots more died under torture. And the few survivors were disbanded as an order by order of the Pope in 1314. Everybody in Europe became very, very careful. You didn't upset the Inquisition at any price, or you'd be invited along to the next church barbecue and you were going to be on the menu. 2 years after the Knights Templar was suppressed, a new order was founded in Portugal by a Portuguese king who came from a Templar family, and the order was called the Knights of Christ. They were given all the Templar lands in Portugal. Many of the old Portuguese Templars joined the order, and it was effectively the Knights Templar order come again, just under a different name. But there were 2 rule changes. First of all, to join the new order, you had to be a knight who was born in Portugal. Foreigners were not admitted. And secondly, you owed your allegiance not to the Pope, but now you owed your allegiance through the Grand Master to the Portuguese king. So it was a purely national order under the tight-knit control of the royal family. And within a couple of centuries, the junior members of the royal family became the hereditary Grand Masters of the new order. They carried on the same belief system as the Templars. They were still heretics. They were still following the teachings of Jesus that he had learned from John the Baptist, and they still had their own secret initiation rituals, about which we know very little, apart from the fact that they existed. And these rituals were conducted in underground chapels beneath Templar properties, as they had been throughout Europe when the main order was alive. The Inquisition didn't exist in Portugal until the early 1500s, and there was a wave of immigration into the country from Spain of Jewish people fleeing from the Inquisition. They were closely followed by the Inquisition themselves, and it was at that point that somebody in the order panicked, took all the possibly incriminating artifacts they had and hid them for safekeeping.
It's funny how history, like we learn these things about history, but they seem we're given these events and the dates and stuff. But for me, it wasn't automatic. It didn't give me a full picture of the entire Earth. Say, pick a date, 1528. In 1528, what was going on in Portugal? What was going on in England? What was going on in Palestine? What was going on in the Americas? What was going on, and all these different areas, all in conjunction, because obviously we had international trade back then. So the world was still the world, right? What happened in one part of the world would affect another part of the world. So what's going on? Here we go. Nice one, Mr. Sasquatch.
How's your laundry?
You get to come in like right on the fire.
Yeah, right at the end. You're leaving because your laundry's done and you need to go get it. Because you paid for 3 loads but only got 2, and so
that's 19 minutes, 20 minutes. Yeah, until I've got my white load will be finished, but I've still got another load in there as well. So I'm just going to wait until the other load's finished, and if somebody else needs that other machine, then I just have to take my washing out and put it in a washing basket. And it's white, so if they don't do that,
I do my own washing as well.
Here nor there.
What's up, Squatch?
But, what's up, bro? Years ago,
man.
I was using a local laundromat, and I lived 3 blocks from the place, and so I'd load up my truck and go down there and unload everything, and then put everything in the wash, and I'd drive my truck home and walk back up there because some of the machines take forever. The timer's not right and whatnot. And there's nowhere to park, and so I just did the thing. I left one time. I'll never forget this shit. I left one time, and I came back, and my whites, little laundry doohickey was sitting there open, and I was like, that's weird. So I went over, and I kind of popped it open, checked to see if anybody had thrown anything in there, weird, red, anything like that. Closed it. Didn't see nothing out of place until later. When I got home with all the stuff, and I started going through and separating out all my stuff, I realized someone had stolen all of my whitey tidies.
Oh.
Someone sat there, their fucking grubby ass fingers, and went through all of the whites in there, because there was probably 60 t-shirts, a double handful of long johns and jammies and stuff like that, and then a whole drift of whitey tidies, God knows how many there were.
Thieving
all of
bastards.
them. All of them. Now, here's the thing. I actually accused my wife of it. She hates my whitey tighties. She always has. She refuses to buy me white underwear. She'll get any color of the rainbow, but white.
Is that because of the stains?
No, she just doesn't. She doesn't like whitey tighties specifically. If they're a different color, it doesn't bother her. But the idea of white tight underwear bother her for some weird. So
we used to call them Y fronts. Like if you're wearing Y fronts, they were like like tighty whiteys, but with a Y on the front that you could a little pouch you could get your wiener out of. But they were that's what you know. It's funny because when I was at school, it was the dorks wore Y fronts. We wore boxer shorts, you know.
Right.
Well, that's all well and good till your jugglies are slapping against your thighs and you try to get away from the bully. Fuck that.
Well,
all the hair off both sides of my nuts wearing fucking boxers. Fuck that.
Yeah.
Just, nah.
So, how was your weekend, Sus?
It was fairly quiet. All the kids left for 4 or 5 days, so it was very quiet. I actually got to sit in my living room and watch some TV. I've actually got something to talk about this afternoon at the Blast Radius, which I think will be great. Have you seen the new Lord of the Flies from Netflix?
I don't have Netflix, dude. I don't agree with the
okay
supporters.
I get what you're saying. I'm totally with it. I got a whole family full of people that all Netflix, so I don't really have that capability of deciding that.
I watch Netflix stuff. I've downloaded Netflix. Yeah, Netflix. No, The Witcher. The Witcher was Netflix, wasn't it?
I think so. Yeah.
And what's the other? Yeah, there's a couple of things that I've downloaded in Netflix, but
you're familiar with the classic Lord of the Flies, right? The book.
Yeah. The boys.
I'm sure they made you read it in grade school or whatever.
Lord of the Flies was the one with the boys, wasn't it? On the
they plane crashes and there's nobody older than like 14 or 13, something like that. All right. All of the Lord of the Flies movies, when you look back, they all start as, oh no, we're alone. What are we going to do? And then there's the whole montage of them doing stuff to survive. And then at some point, usually in the movies, it's right after the fire, the hunger sets in, and then things get weird. You ever notice that? In the book, after the fire, there was some major discussion surrounding food and where to get food and how to catch pigs, right?
Right.
You remember that whole conversation between, what was his name, Nicky and
honestly,
Ralph?
The story isn't fresh in my mind.
Well, the story isn't important to the point of the book either.
There was a big power struggle and two different factions.
Right. That's true. But the struggle, the real struggle was, and it's never said out loud in the book. It's never defined in any of the movies. No one ever actually, in none of the representations of this film, do they ever actually take on what the actual problem is. How many pigs could possibly be on that island?
I mean,
how big's the island?
How big's the island?
Not very. They circumnavigate it in a couple of hours walking around, and they get to the top of the mountain and back down in an afternoon.
I mean, there's not going to be that many pigs on the island.
Right. So when they kill 6 adult pigs on the island over the course of a few months, well, actually, no, I'm sorry, 4 adult pigs and 2 juvenile babies, kind of. Now what happens?
Well, the pigs go. It eventually, basically, cause extinction of pigs on that island.
Okay, so what if I were to tell you that after the fire and after the 2 or 3 hunts that takes place right after the fire, they state succinctly that they can find no sign of pigs anywhere, and in the very next scene, one of the boys is gone and they've got a pig. They killed a pig, they're going to have a feast.
Oh, right.
This is what starts the power struggle. Is they don't say the boy is missing. They never say it. He's just not mentioned again. He never shows up. No one ever questions it. Piggy, Nicky, he actually makes the closest statement to saying, hey, are we eating people? Right? And it is when he counts the little ones. He counts them and he comes up one short and he looks around and goes, hey, where's that other kid at? And everybody just looks at him like, how many are there? He's like, well, there were this many of them. Now there's this many. And and the other 2 guys look at each other and they're like, I don't remember that kid. Like, who are you talking about? And in one guy's case, for certain, he actually doesn't remember the kid, has no clue that kid was ever there. The other guy, though, when it's brought up, takes 2 steps back, and when Ralph says he doesn't remember him, he goes, yeah, I don't remember him either. And so they continue feasting on pigs for the next couple of weeks, right? Pigs that are no longer a challenge to hunt, by the way.
Easy pig meat.
The thing is, who wrote Lord of the Flies?
Fuck, I can't remember. Hold on. I used to be able to spit that trash out on a whim. A lot of people miss the whole point of that. It has nothing to do with being lost on an island or, you know, the group of guys that are working together or the story that comes out of it. It has everything to do with things like ethics and morals and group dynamics and like he was saying, the power struggles that happen within any particular group.
Right.
And everything about that.
Right, and also it's the type of people that strive for power. Right? It's the type of person that wants to control everything.
That is a very good point. And this new series does a really good job at depicting that situation, which the book did too. And it's so good, you'll miss it if you're not paying attention. So there's this guy named Ralph, and Ralph is literally nobody. He's average height, average build, average intelligence, average kid. He has nothing that sticks out and makes him exceptional. We can't see that at all, bro. It's just fading out.
Is it?
And
it's the background, isn't it?
So he's like a Vladimir Zelensky type.
Yeah, he's just Joe Blow number 2. If in any other movie he would be a background character, but for 2 reasons. One, he was the first one to wake up, and he's wandering around trying to get shit together, and he just coincidentally he finds a fresh water, and he finds some coconuts, and he found something else. There was some other thing that he come across, and it just the fact that he had something that people needed put him in a position of being able to like dictate how these things are used. But it wasn't just that. The individual called Piggy, whose name is Nicky, that's it. And
oh, look at the surname. Why am I not surprised?
So
Golding.
It's Golding, isn't it? It's not
Jewish
Gosling.
name?
It's Golding.
Thingy.
I knew there was going to be gold in there somewhere.
Golding, yep.
Sorry, carry on, Saz.
So that's only part of the reason why he sort of accidentally ends up in charge. The other part is Nicky. Nicky finds the conch, breaks the end off of it, and tries to use it to summon everybody else because he knows there's more people here and he's hoping to find an adult. in the process of trying to blow the conch, he comes across Ralph, and he looks at Ralph. He's like, "Hey, I'm really thirsty." Ralph's like, "There's a stream right over here. Come on." And they go find the stream, and then he's like, "I'm fucking starving." He's like, "Oh, there's a bunch of coconuts over here." And Nikki goes, "Well, you're real good at this, bro." like when we get everybody together, you might want to consider taking the lead. And he's like, "Nah, yeah, I'm just some dude, man. Like, nah, not really." And then the group gathers, and one part of the group is most of what's left of a choir. And the choir has that whole military echelon feel to it, where homeboy is in charge, second in command is this guy, third, fourth, fifth, and it goes down the line like that, right? There's a whole chain of command. The rest of these kids don't have anything like that. And so, and it's not like, this is another thing that's not directly addressed in the book, but context clues tells you that they decide that whoever is oldest is in charge, at least as far as once you get past Ralph, Jack, and Nikki. Past that point, whoever's oldest is in charge. Is kind of how the little ones decide who's right and who's wrong and what to do and who to follow and all that. What immediately happens, you have a little bit of a power struggle at the beginning between Ralph and Jack, but it's not actually between Ralph and Jack. It's between the choir and what are referred to as, quote unquote, the others or the little ones, right? Now, not all of the others are little ones. Some of them are 12, 13, and like that, but most of them are 9, 8, 7, 6, right? So, go ahead.
South Park do a sort of take on it, don't they? They with the when they split the town into the little ones and the teen, and then the 8 to 10-year-olds, and then 3 to 6-year-olds or whatever. Like Ike is on the other team. Sorry, carry on. Sorry.
So this is where the book actually comes into its stride. Is that first moment, not the first meeting, because the first meeting is kind of a disaster. It's exactly what you expect from a bunch of petulant children all saying they're in charge and blah, blah, blah. The second meeting actually puts some floor work under your feet. In the second meeting, Ralph blew the conch. The choir had wandered off from the first meeting the day before. The Litlins had all wandered off and gone rogue and did whatever. And Ralph and Nikki over here trying to figure out, okay, so if South Islanders can build a fucking grass hut, surely we can figure it out, right? But they can't. They have no skills with which to beset this particular problem. And so they fail to build the hut. And then they failed to build. They'd spend all day doing this, like over and over again. They put together different ideas, and none of it actually works. Some of it kind of works, and they kind of keep some of the ideas that do. But anyway, it's a failure. And some of the little ones are sitting there watching them do this, wondering, why are you putting forth so much effort? It's not like it's raining. And the little ones kind of decide that these two guys, while they have very good ideas, don't know what they're doing. And when the little ones get together, and none of this is addressed directly in the book, it's depicted by the response that takes place to these different stresses, right? Now, what's up, Tut? And
reaction.
Not so much reaction, more response, because they decide these guys don't know what they're doing, and so they go and they side with Jack, and that changes the power balance over, so that while Ralph has been nominated as chief, Jack has been made top hunter, and it's their job to help build the signal fire and keep it lit. And Ralph's job is to find a group of people to help build shelter so that they don't have to live like freaking pygmies. And I think that reference is actually in the book. Like, we don't want to be living like pygmies. And this is where the schism, the most basest part of the schism, actually starts. Jack cannot tolerate negative. He's a narcissist. He can't tolerate negative criticism of any type. And anytime someone criticizes him, he blames someone right next to him. And it is the most transparent thing ever. He's constantly lying about where he's from, who his family is, what they do, what kind of skills he has. And indeed, the very first time they're on a hunt, as a matter of accident, Piggy, who can't see and is fat, or rather Nikki, can't see and is fat and slow and has a slightly twisted ankle and asthma and thick glasses and all these things against him, and yet has read every single book in existence about being stranded on desert islands. He is the most prepared individual here. And it's one of those moments where who should be the leader? Nikki should be the leader, but Nikki's short. And Nikki can't see, and he can't run, and he can't throw, and he can't hunt, and he can't do any of these things that these children are picturing in their mind as being the leader. And then you've got Jack over here, who is a total shitheel, like absolutely horrible, and they all know it. But at the same time, he's able to do all of these things, and very well, out of hand. Like he can throw a rock and hit a rabbit in the head with it. He can make a spear from scratch. Like he does all of this stuff, but he does it almost as if it's in petulance, right? All of these accomplishments that he does are not done for the betterment of the group or for the betterment of himself. Even it's to prove those bastards wrong.
Right. And Dana, yeah, he's talking about Lord of the Flies. It is a fictional book, but we're talking about the real life dynamics of conflict, right, within groups. So this, I learned about this a while ago. I can't remember when. The channel is the Cummings Center for the History of Psychology, and this is lesson 3, episode 3 about Robbers Cave, which is a study that was done in the 1900s, funded by, I can't remember who it was, but it was a Jewish person. And it basically studying conflict, realistic conflict.
Oh, yeah, I remember
Between
this.
1949 and 1954, social psychologist Musafar Sharif and Carolyn Wood Sharif collaborated with graduate students to hold a series of experiments to test one of Dr. Sharif's ideas, known as realistic conflict theory. This having to do with intergroup conflict, stereotypes, and prejudices. The most famous and significant of his experiments took place in 1954 at Robbers Cave State Park in Oklahoma. Sharif's main idea was that conflict arises between groups when they're competing for limited resources. This hypothesis had important implications as the Second World War had recently ended. The experiments involved 22 children between the ages of 11 and 12. None of them knew each other previously, and all came from similar backgrounds, middle class, white, and Protestant. The experiment had 3 stages, the first being a bonding stage. Before the two groups were made aware of each other, they were encouraged to bond and create social norms by engaging in activities such as swimming and hiking. Here the groups took names, the Eagles and the Rattlers, and developed their own cultures and cultural norms. The next stage was the competition stage, lasting 4 to 6 days. In this stage, there was to be friction between the groups, and as such, a series of competitions were arranged. These competitions included baseball, tug of war, and touch football, among others. The winners would receive a trophy, medals, and pocket knives. There was no alternative prize for the losers. The Rattlers, who had developed a norm of toughness and aggression, became emphatically confident in their success. They put Rattlers' flags on the baseball field and made threats about bothering them. The researchers then manipulated situations where one group would gain at the cost of the other. What started as verbal aggression between the groups soon escalated further. After one of the baseball games, the Eagles burned the Rattlers' flag. The next day, the Rattlers raided the Eagles' cabin, flipping beds and stealing personal items. Soon, fistfights would break out, and the researchers had to physically separate the children. After the end of the conflict period, where it was announced that the Eagles were the winners, there was a reducing friction period. The groups were asked to characterize the other group, and it was found that there were profoundly negative characterizations, while holding their own group in high esteem. During this time, the two groups were brought together to engage in non-competitive activities. Sharif believed that simple contact between the groups would not reduce friction. Instead, there would need to be common, superordinate goals to accomplish. In one event, the boys were to watch a movie together, but had to chip in money of their own. They worked together to decide the splitting of the money. They also had to work to fix an issue with a water tank and the water supply at camp, which the researchers had arranged. Likewise, one of the trucks delivering food became stuck and had to be pulled out by the children, working together. At this point, the kids had come together, no longer as enemies, but as allies with a common goal. Mustafar and Carolyn Sheriff had successfully demonstrated realistic conflict theory. Normal boys became their own cultures and showed that conflict for limited resources can lead to prejudiced attitudes and discriminatory behaviors. While simple coexistence did not eliminate these prejudices, working together towards something better for both groups did.
One of the takeaways from that study was, though, that they didn't emphasize here, was that 25% of the group will always hold a grudge and animosity towards the other side because it's the other side. They're the enemy. They were always the enemy.
So, my question here is, Golding writes this book, what, 1904 or some goddamn shit? 1954. It was published.
Yeah. I think this was done. Probably, like you can bet your bottom dollar that the guy that pushed this had read Lord of the Flies, right?
Yeah, they have to have, right?
Yeah. This is it's a psychological study of why conflict arises, right? Why hatred between groups arises, why that actually it becomes a thing. And it's only ever over resources, when you like, or just things, getting things, winning prizes, or I mean the conflict wasn't as, it escalated when they started to add food and provisions into those prizes. So if you won, you get to feast that night, and if you lost, you didn't get to eat anything.
So one of the things that always tripped me out, now I'm familiar with the Robbers Cave experiment, and there's a couple of others that are similar.
I've just got to go and grab my washing. I'm really sorry. Carry on, man.
So the what intrigues me, and there's a couple of corners on this old ball that we got to knock off before you get a grip on it. Golding writes this book, publishes it, and it languishes for a couple of few years, just sitting around, a few handful of people in points of notoriety of various descriptions. A couple of publishing house owners and whatnot read it, and they are intrigued by it, and they go on to talk about it, and it takes it a little while to kind of pick up speed and actually become the cult classic that it becomes later. And the reason that cult classic situation arises is, I think it was in either the early 60s or late 50s. There was an almost identical circumstance that took place, only it wasn't a plane crash. It was a group of boys who had been shipwrecked. The ship foundered, ran aground, no adults survived, and a group of boys between the ages of like 9 and 17 end up stranded on this island. And the island isn't terrible, it's just not great. And they're able to find things like breadfruit and various other plant-derived food. Some of the boys are able to fish in various ways, and a couple of the boys were able to put together some traps. So it wasn't as destitute as the Lord of the Flies, right? And it was a larger island too. And what actually happened in this situation, which granted in the real scenario, one of the kids was almost an adult. He was 17, 16, something like that. And these kids, over the course of, I think it was 26 months, 27 months, something like that, recreated what is found in virtually every English town on earth, the high street. They built a place to eat. They built a pub, place to drink. They built a barber shop. They built a meeting hall, which they called town hall. They built a public area like a park, which was around a group of fruit trees. And they basically reinvented society from scratch. But a lot of people point at this and they go, well, see, this is the natural tendency of man. This is how we solve problems. There was no strife on this island. The oldest kid, there was an older kid that survived for the first couple of weeks, but he died from injuries suffered during the crash. And so this kid had talked to the oldest boy and had apparently broken down everything that's going to happen. It's going to start off, they're going to be thirsty. You've got to give them water. You can't negotiate that. You've got to give them food. You have to do this, And meanwhile, the guy is over here like bleeding internally and slowly dying. But he stresses to this 17-year-old, he's like, hey, these things are going to happen. It is inevitable. You have to keep them busy. Keep them busy, and they won't turn on each other. As long as they've got something to do, no matter how miserable they are, they will work together, and that's what you've got to do. And so this kid, this 16, 17-year-old kid, took that to heart, and anytime he kind of went a little overboard, according to a handful of the people there. Do what? Pardon? Okay. So at that point, when homeboy dies, he pushes him out to sea because he doesn't want the other kids to see him. And then he basically, yeah, Dom, good to see you, bud. Appreciate it. He goes out and he kind of, because up to this point, he's been taking care of this kid over here. And he hasn't really been doing any leadership stuff except to come out and break up fights when they started. And he'd be like, go catch some crabs, we'll cook them. You go do this, go do that thing, go get us some sticks. We'll, just to keep them away from the kid that was dying. And after the kid dies, he comes out and says, all right, we're going to set this up in the most logical way possible, which is not what happens at all, because he takes over because he's the oldest. And most importantly, he's the biggest. He literally beats up anyone who disagrees with him. And he admits that in interviews later. He said, yes, he ran the whole thing with an iron fist. He says, but you have to understand, these children would poop in their own drinking water. They would pee into the tops of the streams. They'd go find the most upper part of the stream and go pee in it. And we couldn't allow that. There wasn't enough fresh water on the island to be able to contaminate any of the streams. And so I kept them all as a group, and anyone who wandered off got worked over real good when they got back. I kept the food separated so that they couldn't get to it without it being a meal time, even when we had plenty. Like when they first crashed, a whole bunch of stuff washed up on the beach. They had tons of food for like a week, for the first week. And he had basically stolen all of it and hid it in the area that he had the guy dying until that had finished. And he said he did it because the guy that was dying had told him, look, you have to take command of all the resources. There is no way everyone will survive. If someone doesn't take point on this, you will all die of disease or accident. And I know this sounds crazy, but, he was like, there might be lions, tigers, and bears on this island. We don't know. So until we find out for sure that there's no big predators, you have to act as if there is. And this whole thing goes on. And 27 months later, royal ship comes by. They notice a fire on an unoccupied island, and they go over, check it out. It's every single one of the kids that survived the shipwreck. They're all there. What's more is they're all in extremely good health. There's a couple of like nagging infections that they couldn't deal with, but the kids with these nagging infections have banana leaf bandages. They had a hospital. They built a hospital, full-on infirmary. Didn't even know what to call it. Mm-hmm. They called it the hurt place. And so when you dislocated an ankle or you skinned a knee or anything like that, you went to the hurt place, and they had a kid over there who knew absolutely nothing, but whose mom was a nurse or something. And so he had seen a handful of bandages made and some splints made and stuff like that. And so he just kind of guessed at what would need to be done. And it worked. It freaking worked. He didn't volunteer to be a doctor. They told him he was going to be the doctor. And he was like, no, I don't know anything about that. And neither does anybody else. But your mom was a nurse, and maybe you'll remember something once you get started. And he did. One of the kids was designated a cook. If I remember right, it was the youngest, and he was the most useless person there. But they designated him the cook because he was clearly depressed and needed something to do. And so his only job during a given day was to pick out what they were going to eat. And so everybody would go out trapping and hunting and working and doing and gathering, and they'd bring everything back, and he'd be like, tonight we're going to eat this and that and that. And then they'd all get together and cook it together. So he was basically just the lunch lady. And like I said, the older kid, anybody got out of line, he'd snatch them up, or more likely he would catch them alone a little later. And he would straight up just work them over and be like, look, we've got to survive this. We need as many hands as we can have. And any one of you may have enough information to solve the next problem. And so over the course of the months, they built the meeting house. They actually built a bar, a pub, like a full-on pub that had something resembling chips. Apparently that's what makes a pub in a child's mind, is some chips. Which, if I remember right, was actually boiled. They called boiled taro root chips. It's just these long, floppy, stringy ass pieces of something that won't kill you if you eat
it. Yeah, fascinating.
So
where was this?
Oh, wow. This was it was a British training vessel training. I don't remember what they called them. They were like Boy Scouts, but for like Royal Sailors. It was like the sailors. I don't remember. I know that Nova Scotia has a very similar thing where all of their youths are in, they all know knots. Don't ever piss off a Nova Scotian. Them motherfuckers will tie you up, bro. All of them, every single one, every man, woman, and child on that island can do a better half boat than you can, faster.
Thanks for the advice.
That's not a joke. But yeah, it was a royal ship. It was a training vessel. They were basically out trying to see whether or not they had sea legs and whatnot. And I don't know where. I've always been curious about this. I don't know where the island that they crashed on was, but I've always figured it was like down around the Azores or the Maldives would be about the only place that a tropical type island would exist, you know? I have no idea where the actual shipwreck took place. What's interesting is there's another book that was written by an author, I don't know, 20 years, 30 years before, around 1890, 1880, somewhere in there. And the name of this book is Coral Island. And it's a very similar sort of story to The Lord of the Flies. And it's a very similar sort of story to the kids that were stuck on the island. In this case, it's yet again a group of, I don't think they're all kids. I think some of them are just inexperienced. They're just, a clerk or a car salesman or some shit like that. But they're young. They're 18, 19, 20. And they know jack all about the sea and absolutely nothing about island life. And this has a flavor to it that's like Swiss Family Robinson, where they build all the contraptions and everything to make life better. But on Coral Island, there was already a bad element built into the plot. So before the ship crashes, there's already a group of people on the ship who are smugglers, pirates, whatever. They're not part of the crew, is the point. You know, the crew, one of these guys ends up in the chain of command of the crew after the shipwreck, but they had just been hired on before this particular thing, and they're not part of the group or any of the groups that developed. And so from the very beginning, there's this weird, in the book Coral Island, there's this weird dark cloud on the horizon that you can just kind of feel in the subtext. There's nothing specific that tells you, hey, these people are bad. There's lots of little bitty clues, like the spyglass turns up missing almost immediately. The guy who found the spyglass was called the Watcher, and they put him up on a high spot to watch for ships, right? There's another couple of guys who were put together to
find it.
do a signal fire, that kind of thing.
The Coral Island, an 1858 novel
it's an
by
early one.
R.M. Ballantyne.
And it is
And it was
a
made
very...
into a children's TV show adaptation series.
Oh yeah, that TV show was kind of a joke version of it. This is like rainbows and butterflies everywhere and shit, if you get what I'm saying. In the book, there is...
Never saw it.
Actually, I think the same question comes up as to where all the pigs come from, right? They, right. If I remember right, in the book, one of the bad guys is... he pissed off some of the good guys. And this is another thing. It's kind of debatable who the good guys and who the bad guys are. The bad guys are depicted as being ne'er-do-wells and pirates and thieves and robbers and stuff like that. That's how they're described. And they're described as being swarthy and dark and short and ugly and pustuled and all these horrible things. But if you actually look at the things they do... It's fairly, it's not exactly all that bad. I mean, yeah, sure, before they came to the island, everything they did was maybe involved making money. And a couple of the guys still have that idea because I think a chest of specie was found, right? Spanish specie, and like doubloons. And one of these guys hides it, and so that becomes a major plot point of all of the shenanigans that takes place is who gets to keep the wealth of the island because they're rich. Whoever gets off this island is rich if they can get off with the specie in hand, right? What makes it such a poignant story is most of the people involved are children. The only thing they know is that gold is worth money and there's a lot of it over there, but they have no idea what it actually means. You know, what are we trying to dox? Oh yeah, that's it. That's the Coral Island. It's one of my childhood favorites. It's right up there with Swiss Family Robinson. I mean, who was it that wrote Swiss Family Robinson? That's another. I mean, it's kind of a joke, you know, but if you read the book and on YouTube, you can find a audiobook of Swiss Family Robinson that is absolute balls. It's one of the best ever done as far as like the vocals, the background, all of that. But one of the funniest things to me about the Swiss Family Robinson is
original illustrations.
Yeah.
Thank you for your patience.
Yeah, sure.
I haven't read it, but it sounds really, you know.
Read the Coral Island. Coral Island is really good.
I've got a thing for Paradise Islands.
Have you read Swiss Family Robinson?
Been to a few in my day, but the UK isn't it.
Have you actually?
That's all.
Actually, the UK is.
That's
it's
really
just what they've done to it. What they've done to it, right? They've manipulated the weather so that it is always drab and wet and depressing weather in the UK. But whenever the sun comes out, right, and it's a nice, beautiful day, England's a beautiful, beautiful country. It's just the people governing it, and what's been done to it in the last 20 years. It could be perfect. The UK could be perfect. I mean, it was. In the 80s, it was perfect, man.
Great.
It was one of the best places to be.
Yeah. You can see some of the potholes, man. Some of the potholes are just
Dana,
insane.
the whole point in fiction versus reality.
Sinkholes.
The whole point of fiction versus reality and discussing fiction versus reality is that reality bleeds out into fiction all the time.
Fiction is preparatory to face reality. What might happen? Oh no, the horrible things that could happen. We put that down as a fiction. But then a year later, 2 years later, 50 years later, the plot of that particular fiction comes not necessarily true, but to close enough as to be indistinguishable.
1984. Anybody? Anybody?
Well,
anybody else thinking of 1984? Me and Ross watched it for the first time the other day. We watched it all the way through from beginning to end for the first time the other day. It's
cool.
It's scary, man. It's scary.
You know what the scariest part of that is to me? Is at the end when you realize that home chick that he's been pining over since he was 4 worked for the government just like he did and was doing exactly the same thing he was doing to him that he was supposed to be doing to other people.
And the whole thing, like, at the end of the day, the only person we care about is ourselves. We don't actually, when it comes down to it, when you're undergoing excruciating agony, and the only way to end that agony is to sell out and fucking chuck someone under the bus, you'll chuck them under the bus.
Yeah, but that's a created stressor that doesn't actually depict itself in a natural environment without Big Brother there pulling all the switches. That circumstance would have been alleviated before you reached it through social engagement.
Except
maybe conflict resolution.
Except Big Brother pulls all the levers.
Right, and Big Brother governs social interaction. Like
language.
The language used, the history taught, like, I mean, the things that they're doing it in real time. They're doing it in real time, changing history to fit a narrative. They're changing definitions of words in real time to fit the narrative that they're putting out there.
You know, one of my favorites I come across, I've told you about this before. I had a live stream I was going to do. This has been 4 or 5 years ago. This was right when I started my channel and I got into live streaming and I realized, hey, I could put an idea out there and somebody else might be able to finish it, right? And I got this idea. I'm like, okay. And this is kind of a dumb idea, but at the same time, I think it's interesting. North America lost most of its terrestrial animals, I think, around 20,000 years ago. And what I mean by that is there are really weird numerical things about North America that doesn't happen anywhere else on Earth. Even in like Africa and stuff, these numbers are impossible. The passenger pigeon. So many birds in a single flock that it would block out the sun for 4 days in downtown Chicago. Buildings collapsed under the weight of their poop when they flew through. that does not sound like a natural occurrence of animal speciation or even colonization. That sounds like an invasive species. Buffalo, as far as the eye can see, herd so vast that wagon trains may starve to death while they pass, because it takes so long and they're so aggressive that you can't kill one, go out and clean it. You have to wait until they pass to move on, or they'll kill all your horses.
I mean, I think if I was going to categorize myself, I would be a simulation theorist.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well, the simulation
I'm a-
has rules, and North America broke those rules.
Well, I mean, I haven't actually studied. I haven't looked at that. I haven't looked.
So
at,
here's what broke my brain. I went and sat down with a notebook. This was actually right around the time I interviewed you. It's that long ago. I went, got me a notebook, and I sat down and I wrote down all the things that struck me as odd about pre-colonial North America, and how, at least as animals, plants, arrangements, numbers, geometry, all of the stuff that I could dig up, right? Ripped it right out of my memory. And then I went on Google and I did a bunch of research and got the actual numbers and all the actual graphs and all that stuff, right? And one of the things that I come across was two things, two specific pieces of data. One, how many bison total were in North America before Columbus, and what the arc of descent and the reduction of numbers looked like. Was it apparently because white men showed up, or was there some specific thing that triggered it at a later date, right? And it turns out there was a specific thing. Both of these data points agree on that. However, twisted my tits, I went and got the information, wrote all this crap down, noted where all the fucking locations were to go bring it back up for the show. And then the power went out or something, and I couldn't do the show the next day when I had planned on it. And so I delayed it for a week. And the next week I went and I'm going through clicking all my links, and I get to Wikipedia, and the information does not match what I had written down.
They've changed it.
That's the only assumption I have. I went, wait, that's not right, because when I wrote it down,
you said last week,
there were 1.2 billion bison in all of North America. That is from southern Mexico to the Arctic. Billion with a B. And when I went back and looked 2 weeks later, when I did this, when I was in the process of doing it, I actually ended this stream because things went so freaking awry because of this.
I mean,
95 million.
So, one thing, I don't trust any of their statistics of anything, right? So, like 1 billion, there is actually no realistic way for them to have been able to actually say there were 1 billion. That was a guesstimation based on...
So is the 95 million, to be honest.
The same way that they do, right? So I learned something about war, about how they play, the war game the other day. I forget who it was that was talking. Oh yeah, it's that guy who's in Russia now. He was an American, but now he even applied to be a general for the Russian army in this recent conflict, right? He's not batting for America anymore, right? He was saying that the difference between the East and the West is the West play war games, right? And it's game theory for war games, and whereas the East, they play war science. And their development, their research and development into tactics and stuff is a bit is different, but it means that they learn from their mistakes. Whereas America and the West, they will do the same thing again and again, just with different people, hoping that it will work. You've got your heroic generals, you know, Colonel Custer, and fucking I can't think of any others off the top of my head because I'm not American. And also I have an issue with my, with my memory, especially recently. But yeah, it's very much like, well, this general didn't do it, right? But we're gonna do it this time. And he was pointing out how one of the American tactics is to just chuck people right in the fucking middle of it, right? And they'll just win through because it worked once a long time ago, and it hasn't worked since. Whereas in the East, they're much more methodical. I forget how that's connected to what you were talking about.
Eastern philosophy of war is more nefarious. Western philosophy of war is more clever.
I don't know that it is.
The Eastern philosophy utilizes known numbers, known things to quantify unknown things, whereas the Western philosophy quantifies effectiveness over like immediate results over long-term effectiveness.
One of the things that this guy pointed out, right, was that the model that they use to guesstimate the numbers of wounded or dead, or like how effective their missiles have been, is all based on this old philosophy with, you know, in the 1900s or something, where the weaponry was completely different. And so they say, well, we dropped, you know, bombs here and missiles here and mortars here, and so that means we will have killed this many people. We will have taken out this many tanks. We will have done this. And it's all, there's nothing, because war has changed so much, the theatre of war has changed so much because of drones and all of that. The numbers aren't the same. They won't be the same anymore. So when they say, oh, we've killed 600 Russians because we dropped, you know, missiles here, they probably didn't drop 600 Russians. They might have dropped 60. But based on that old model, that they say 600. I think it was talking to Redacted, or was it might have been Jimmy Dore. I wish I could put it.
I'm guessing the topic here has slid into the realm of conflict resolution from Lord of the Flies. Is that about right? I mean, war is the ultimate resolving factor of conflict, right? It might also be the conflict, but it is not the reason for the conflict.
Right.
There's always another reason.
Where's the...
I mean, you're not fighting because you're fighting. You're fighting because of something. You know, there's always something.
There's always bloody something, isn't there? But that's been because
War
of
is hell.
That's because of centuries of planned.
I've got a project you might like. It's you might find it interesting just on its surface. It'll take a minute to kind of explain, but okay, so however long you believe humans have been here, we've been living here and doing things and colonizing and mixing and migrating and building and doing and all of the stuff, agriculture, animals, you name it, right? How many different cultures have tackled the homestead concept? All of them. The idea of taking a family and going and living just outside the fringes and establishing your own freehold, as it were, is almost as old as building a home.
It's. I mean, I would say that it is not almost as old as it is the foundation of.
Very
building a
good,
home.
Richie. Very good. We're digging in the same trench. All right. So it strikes me as odd that modern homesteading looks the way it does when it looks nothing like any of the previous attempts to do this thing. Nowhere will you find a fucking a trailer and a house built out of hay bales and some dude with a shovel and really big aspirations. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I'm sure there were idiots back then too, but you didn't make it far enough to get out there to fail before finding out what it took to succeed.
Interestingly enough, my cousin and her husband, that's actually kind of what they did. She was left some forest land in a will. This guy left her a huge part of forest, beautiful forest. And they wanted to build a farmhouse in the middle of it and be self-sufficient, be a homestead, be a small holding, right? And it took them, I don't know, 10 or 15 years and a petition from the villagers to say that yes, they should be allowed to build their house there. But they basically lived in a trailer and, you know, and a barn that they built because they were allowed to build the barn. You know, they lived like, yeah, in a trailer for 10 to 15 years before Bob built the house by himself. He built the entire house by himself, a proper farmhouse, man. With a cathedral-like fucking. When you walk in through the front door, right? Spiral staircase, the cathedral hall, fucking amazing it is.
Right. That's not a homestead, though. I get what you're saying. They had to go through a council. They had to talk to the county. They had to do all the things. And I'm talking like Utah. Like you don't even know what county you're in for sure.
Right,
like,
right.
You have to call people and be like, hey, is this property in this county or that county? And they're like, I don't know. Let's go check the map. They go down to the basement and dig up an
England's
old piece of
a very
paper.
small place, man.
I know.
I know. Comparison,
it's not the right. But that's what I'm getting at is the distinction, right? Is anywhere in England you're a lorry ride away from some sort of building supply or something like that, right?
Yeah.
You can go and get whatever you need and bring it back.
I mean,
these people,
there's a couple of places where it's a couple of hours to get good stuff, you know, but yeah.
But for the most part, you can call them up and have them delivered somewhere nearby, right? Like close enough. And it might still be a couple of hours, but you can get anything on fucking planet. I mean, it's England. You can just call up China and be like, hey, we need this thing, and give it a month, it'll be here. Anyway, here's what I'm getting at. All of these ancient peoples, pre-industrial ancient peoples, did a bajillion different variations on what you and I might call a homestead. They left with their family from wherever they lived and went and built new structures to do the things that they were doing before. For whatever reason or another, they quote-unquote homesteaded. Now, the whole self-sufficiency thing, that's great, but it's not necessarily tied into what I'm talking about. The ability to order shit doesn't break that. You get what I'm saying? This is not a colonial circumstance, and this is not a Coventry circumstance. This is just someone who wants to go out and get away from all the things while still having most of the things that they want. More self-sufficiency, not just total cutoff.
Right.
And I got looking through, and I looked at thousands and thousands of aerial photographs and diagrams and this and that, and how you'd be hard pressed to find somebody who knows more about Toltec agriculture than an actual Toltec agriculturalist. You know what I mean? Like, I spent time looking at the way different farms from different time periods and different cultures did things, and I came across three interesting points. The most efficient farmstead I could find was the old pre-Bronze era Celtic style roundhouse. Now, it wasn't just Celts. A lot of different people used these.
The roundhouse came from Scandinavia, didn't it? The idea of the roundhouse.
It's very common across several different cultures and different time periods. But as far as who the first ones who used it were, I've no freaking clue. But the idea, you dig out the bottom, you line it with stones, you build walls up from there of stone, and then you build your farm out from that round structure. That is genius.
Yeah. Well, it's a similar idea to the prison thing, just that, like having a.
Well, I mean, what is a farm other than an animal prison? I mean, when it comes down to it, a plant prison. Yeah. So the genius of this is both in how it evolves over time, as well as its lower limit versus its upper limit of population. You can establish a roundhouse farmstead with 2 people, and that's it. You can literally take you a couple of boxed rabbits, a handful of chickens, go out and cut some stobs and build you a little rabbit hutch and chicken coop.
Some goats.
That's later. That's actually later. But you can build your roundhouse while living off of the farm animals you can keep close at hand like that. A goat would require for you to go out and shepherd them, and you need that time to be able to establish the footprint and build the floor and build the walls and build the house.
I'm not talking about a flock of goats. I'm talking about just maybe 2 or 3
a
that
goat.
you can keep.
Sure.
Or a goat, yeah, or just one goat. But yeah.
Sure. And hell, if you get the right kind of goats, a couple of them can probably pull a cart, and that'd be hella useful. But what I'm getting at is almost any other style. Now, the Romans were the most developed at it. I mean, clearly, obviously. Although there is some arguments to be made for some Incan settlements that I've come across, a couple of the Aztec settlements that I've come across, which are very different, by the way. And I thought that was very interesting. And then who are those other assholes in Mesoamerica? The Olmecs. The Olmec layouts.
Right, but didn't they all use the step idea, right? Having the steps,
terraces.
For basically for
yes, they all used terraces.
For irrigation.
The Incas were the ones who made it a high art.
Because like Tenerife is full of them.
Yeah, well, I mean, every culture on Earth that comes across a slope and needs to farm develops the terrace almost immediately. So that's not unusual. What is unusual about South America is how extreme they took the technology. And I think there's a lot to be learned from that.
You mean the irrigation?
No, just the terracing of the environment. I mean, you can look at some Asian areas today with machinery, and they're not as prolifically terraced as some of the areas in the Andes.
It's almost like these mountains were 3D printed with the terraces on them.
It's kind of what it looks like, but that's because an intelligent mind and clever hands put those rocks there with intent. They didn't just push up a pile of rocks and call it good. They built it. They made it. And I've always wondered, what would have happened if when the Spanish showed up, instead of them robbing the Incans at gunpoint, instead of there being, well, it was Aztecs, but instead of it being Pacu the Third, it was Paquette, a beautiful young native princess who owned the entire fucking culture, and say de Guillermo or Cortez or one of those boys, instead of colonizing the place in the classic Spanish sense, he simply married her, right? And altered the command structure to benefit the colonialization. And instead of losing the Incan influence, it was allowed to utilize modern technology and move forward. Consider this. Incans utilized state projects for everyday individual people. You would go down to your local Inca representative. You would talk to the scribe, and he would write down whatever it is that you needed. I've got a family of 3, my wife and her sister and her 3 kids, and we would like to start a homestead over here on this mountain. It's just off the road. It's a good investment. If we can develop that property, it would be great. The whole 9. This information gets sent to the local person that's in charge of the local district, and it's duplicated, and it is sent to the Incan home immediately. It's duplicated immediately, and a runner goes here and a runner goes there, and the local guy goes, okay, that sounds like a good idea. We'll make that happen. Now we need you to go to the place, and we need you to mark out the area, and we need you to do the basic things. You got to take 3 chickens. You got to take 3 cows. You got to take 3 pigs. You've got to gather the shit that you're going to need to survive the winter. And we'll send a crew out there at the beginning of next spring. So make sure there's a good trail to get there so we can carry all the stuff we need. And your family goes out and y'all do the thing. Once you've got the trail made, laid out, everything set up to be built, you fuck right back off to your farm, to your daddy's farm, or wherever it was you're from. And later somebody shows up and goes, hey, you should probably go move into your house over there. Right? There's like a very small amount of paperwork you've got to do before they will just build you one. That is why when you get into the Incan heartlands, when you get into the steep valleys of like Peru and the Andes, it goes from being like lots of mud huts and stuff like that to every single farm looking like it was built as part of a larger religious structure. That's because it pretty much was. The distinction between the state and the church was merely a distinction between a warrior and a warrior priest. And so when Pakal says, take care of the people, the church does it. Now, the church in their case was like totally different from what we're used to, but at the same time, they knew that their power was developed through their control of resources. And so they promoted that as strongly as possible. And here's the best part. You managed to convince them that this location is a great spot for a homestead, but you fuck it up. You can't keep it. Your animals die, your crops fail, you're bad at business, and you're drunk. And they show up one day and go, hey, look, you said this is going to be a profitable venture, that you're going to be able to tithe more to the church. We did all of the building and everything. We need you to put somebody else in charge. And if you don't, we will. Now, they don't kick you out. That's still technically, quote unquote, your house. But some dude with a really big freaking hammer shows up and sits down at the head of the table and says, all right, here's what we're going to do.
But
you're going to get your ass up at 8 a.m. and go milk the fucking cows.
Are you what? Because I've kind of got lost in the story. What time period are we in now?
Oh, we're talking immediately pre-Cortez, pre-Guillermo, what are they called?
Right,
Conquistadors,
okay.
right?
So
right before the Conquistadors showed up.
I love the way, because we all do it, it's the only way that we're able to actually make sense of anything at all, right? We fill in the detail, we fill in the missing parts, you know. We have some details. We have details about stuff, and maybe different perspectives have been written, different subjective experiences have been expressed, and we've read about it. But we fill in all the gaps, and you just painted this amazing picture, this beautiful picture of what life, and it's a totally feasible, totally believable, you know. Like I don't think that these people are more simple, right? They're simpler than we are, but that doesn't mean that they were less intelligent, right? It doesn't mean that they were less capable. They were more capable, obviously, because they were less dependent on the state, because the state didn't exist back then. But the village,
in their case, the Incans,
the village did,
and
right?
And a lot of different Native American type structures are set up in a similar sort of way, but not identical. There's lots of little differences, but essentially The priesthood maintained the power. They were the ones who dealt with the seasons, planting, selection of seeds, all that kind of stuff. Why? I don't know. Because warriors don't care, maybe? Couldn't tell you.
Well, no, because the priesthood they've always governed the spiritual side, right? So there's always been fear of death. And I think the priesthood has always capitalized on that. Whatever priesthood it is, has always capitalized on that fear of death or that fear of judgment.
Sure. And yeah, the fear of judgment does count in on all of that, just in general. But what I was getting at was the structures that were constructed by these different cultures attempting to basically do the same thing with different animals, different crops, different environments, different things. As far as a farm layout and evolutionary, and when I say evolution, I mean the changes that take place. It starts off as a simple roundhouse. Later, a courtyard, a loop of fencing is built around it so that there's room for a cart between the house and the fence, right? And after that, another ring of earthworks would be put up around that further out. That would be the point at determining what water goes where into what wedge. And the entire farm is laid out like the face of a clock in wedges. And this is the most beautiful part of all of it. Depending on what time period and what specific layout and what culture that this design pops up in, because it happened throughout Europe from like dawn of the fucking Stone Age on. Like as soon as they developed the roundhouse, the rest of this comes as follows. Initially, you start with a few small animals. Like it wouldn't have been chickens back then, but an analog of it. So you might have a couple of pigs. You might have. Actually, pigs come a little bit later. Some rabbits, right, would be your most logical protein source. You start with rabbits, which you can build a small hutch for, and you can multiply them fuckers unbelievably quickly.
Actually, don't chickens make more sense? Rabbits. The thing about rabbit is
chickens
if all you
didn't
eat is
exist
rabbit,
then.
Right, because if all you eat is rabbit, I've heard that if all you eat is rabbit, eventually you stop. You stop getting any protein out of it. You get.
But yeah, you can't process it without fats. You got to have certain types of fats. Rabbits don't have those fats. You can derive those fats from fowl, and these people are still hunting. Keep that in mind. They're still hunting and gathering. They're just hunting, gathering, and building a house and farming.
I've replied to your message, Dana. Thank you very much. Thank you.
And so it's laid out like the face of a clock, and something we've learned, the idea of paddock farming with animals has existed since the dawn of time, but rotational grazing has only recently kind of come in vogue. But it turns out that's exactly what these Stone Age farms were doing. Is they had a system. They'd bring in ducks. They would reroute the water. They'd plant a field in this one wedge of whatever crop, and maybe a field in the other wedge of a different crop. And then once that field was done, you go on to a different crop the next year and a different one the next year. And when the soil starts getting spent, that's when you turn your rabbits out into that area. You go out to the end of the wedge, right? You've got your little fences and berms set up to control water flow and all of that stuff, and you go out.
Actually,
and if you need more space, you just make a bigger ring.
Isn't it guinea pigs? Wasn't it guinea pigs, not rabbits, but guinea pigs? Because they do now. Like guinea pigs is actually because I was going to go to Ecuador, wasn't I? I was going to move to Ecuador with Sarah and can't remember what his name was. Oh, crikey. Yeah, I think maybe I've got Alzheimer's, just early onset Alzheimer's. Oh, God, what's his bloody name? It's right on the tip of my tongue. Kevin. Was it Kevin? It wasn't Keith, was it? But anyway, I was going to go to Ecuador, and that was the thing. It was like they eat Guinea pigs. They breed guinea pigs to be eaten. So, yeah. How long's that been going on? When did it change from rabbits to guinea pigs?
Well, that's in Ecuador, sir. Guinea pigs are native there. They've always been, that's what they are, little pigs.
Right, but Ecuador is South America.
Okay.
Which, and they do have, they've got links to, you know, ancient South America, where
Sure.
the Inca and the Maya, and the,
Sure.
you know,
and the Maya and those folks ate guinea pigs too.
And but where are you talking about?
Also
rabbits?
South America, more Peruvian.
Right, and Peru's
and
right
also
next to Ecuador.
Mesoamerica. Don't forget about
Peru's right
Mesoamerica
next
over
to Ecuador, isn't it?
there.
Peru
Not
and Ecuador
far.
are next to each other, aren't they?
I'd have to look at a map to be specific on where Peru is in relation, but I think
They're,
so.
They're right next to each other. Because that's the other thing as well. I ended up not going out. We ended up not doing it, obviously. And then the shit hit the fan over there in Peru and Ecuador. The leadership over there there's something going on. Obviously.
Yeah. But anyway, what I did was I did basically a breakdown on the most efficient layouts for these types of things. And then I got kind of, I think, clever. And I went at the different AIs. I got a couple of buddies of mine do AI type stuff. And I pitched it to the AIs, was like, hey, which of these is the most efficient home, business, self-sustained, ... you know, so on and so forth. And I got they did like 30 or 40 different little images and explanations and deep dives and all of that crap. And they kept just kind of going wild with it. And I was like, okay, that's not specific enough. And so I went through and I was like, give me a modern interpretation of an Incan economic group, which is what they called their farms, right? It was a state-operated, state-run thing, but at the same time, it was also like family-managed and family-owned, if that makes sense. The state owned the crops, but you sharecropped it for the state is what it come down to. But it was the church in all of this. It was the religious body that was in charge of all this. And then the Romans had something called a villa rustica, which is absolutely genius.
Rustica,
yes. And this is basically designed around what an individual would have in Rome, right? If you lived in Rome and you were a wealthy citizen with hundreds of slaves and all of the buildings a wealthy citizen would have, you would have a place for your business, a place for your home, a place to eat, a bathhouse, a place to go fishing, a place to grow your crops. You'd have all these things, right? And it would be spread out either all around the city, or you'd own some property right outside the city that does some of it, and it would be spread out across the city. The Villa Rustica takes all of those activities and places them essentially under a single roof, and then uses passive cooling, heating, just general design excellence to defeat most of your most dire necessities. So these are people who planned everything, and you can tell by the layout of the Villa Rustica is in that before the first block is laid, the canals are built and the aqueduct is built and water is first brought to the location before you ever plant anything.
Right, and that's one of the issues that's been brought up by mud flood Tartarian researchers about cities and stuff, that huge, great big cities that have got all of that infrastructure has been put in there beforehand, but there's no history of it. There's a when I was in Portugal, there's a lot of building going on, and that's what you knew when there was a new spot popping up, because they go in there and dig all of the sewage and the cesspit and all of that, and then you'd get to the building the roads and putting all the amenities in there, all of the junction boxes and everything getting all laid out before the properties are built. Right? Oh, right, hang on a second. I've just got to nip out just for 5 minutes. I'll leave you. Please continue, Sass.
Here, let me see if I can put something worth looking at on the screen. Where is it at? Where is it at? Where is it at? Not that, not that. Huh. I have so much crap in here.
Yeah, I'll do that so that it's. You'll have to do it on your screen. I'm just going to have to be away from the keyboard for 5 minutes. Hang on.
Yeah. All right. Well, this will at least give them something to look at. Right. Turns out I'm an idiot. I started this whole thing and went looking for a specific spawner, and I went to the first one and didn't find it. Went to the second one, didn't find it. Went 6-0, didn't find one anywhere I looked, and I'm like, that's weird, because usually it's right where the first place you look. But turns out, and I don't know why I didn't know this, if you're using an older seed, then every update alters like spawn parameters and whatnot, and so when you start to generate a seed, it may actually be a little bit different from -75. Yeah, we're doing the right thing. We're going the right way. It might be a little bit different. So a particular spawner won't be on the coordinates, but might be within 40 blocks in any direction. And so I'm going back to the original one that I wanted to develop to see if maybe there is a spawner over there. Because if there is, it's close enough to the village to make it useful. Is this my village? I don't think I'm close enough for it to be my village. Oh, that's definitely my village. You can tell by the pyramids. Dun 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 dun. See what I mean? Pyramids. No. Yeet. Nope. I want that back. Come on, give it back. Ooh, hold up. Hold up. Wait a minute. Something ain't right. I need more sticks. I have 11 sticks. Let's stack. I need a stack. I need a stack. I need to go cut some woods. What do I need to do? Come on, man. There we go, that'll do. Now I want all of these. Yes. Cool. Now I have torches. And a stack of sticks. I'm gonna put my stack of sticks up. And half my torches. Yeet. All right, giggity giggity. Now, oh my God, I dug a way to that thing, but I don't think I did it here. Oh yeah, I did do it here, but I don't know which one it is. It would be the one on, oh wait, they're all on -31. Fuck. That's crazy. Alright, so this would be the end location there. And so what I'm looking for is -31. No. -31. And then I want to go north. Alright. And now, no. Yes. And I want -75. So this should get me there.
Right, what's this?
Minecraft. I started a seed, right? And I started a new game using a chosen seed, and I went looking for something that, according to Chunkbase, which is supposed to be the authority on where things are, according to Chunkbase, there's a spawner right over here, and it's kind of close to my village. And I've never seen Chunkbase be wrong by much. Usually you run into it in the process of looking for it, so you don't ever actually have to identify the specific location. But apparently this is an older seed, and when they do updates, it can move where things spawn when you create the world. And so, well, that's neat. Oh no. And so that's kind of where I'm at, is I want to go check this particular, why are we going down? I don't know. Check this particular spawner out and see if it's actually there or not. Because if it's there, that's great. That'll be really cool. It's wild.
It still fascinates me that 40-year-old men play Minecraft.
Okay.
I don't begrudge it. I'm not in judgment of it. I'm just, you know, it's like, I guess I get it. I get it. I just like graphics, man.
Okay. Well, I mean, the complexity of this is in the planning and execution, not in the actual gameplay.
Yeah, I'm more about gameplay rather than planning in it. Right, I'm more about execution. No, not that sort of execution.
Bingo.
RJO, how you doing?
Oh, no, that's not right.
And by the way, Curious Squirrel, I'm really sorry. I saw your name earlier, and I meant to say, "Hey, Curious Squirrel, how you doing? Good to see you." And then, you know, I forgot. I'm sorry. Morgan, as always, making sense to me. You could place all the dead bones down in the catacombs, Sean Puffy catacombs. It's just you can tell by the crystal dome I've erected above the people below. This is obviously in reference to something that I've missed. Oh, you're really high. We can tell how high you are by the crystal dome that you've erected. I never got into SimCity. I don't like controlling lots of people. I like just being the one person. I guess I've always been a bit of a loner, man. You know? That's why I relate to, what's that game? It's got, what's his name, with the crossbow from Walking Dead.
Days, what's the name of it? Not Dawn of the Dead. That's not right, but...
No, it was Walking Dead, but his name was...
Daryl in Walking Dead.
Daryl,
Daryl,
Daryl, right?
But his actual
So Daryl
name
was in a computer game.
Yeah. Something Stranded. Days Stranded.
Stranded. That was it. Right. This, and it's also in the whole idea of Dying Light, right? And no, not Days Gone, but Dying Light, where it's and Stalker as well, right? The whole concept of Stalker. The stalkers are the ones that will go out into the zone, right? And go from one area to another and risk going out in the zone, because they don't really fit in any of the groups.
Right. So the upside to this is once I get over here, there should be a pretty big dungeon, so I shouldn't have any trouble finding the dungeon itself. The issue is going to be finding the individual spawner. I'm pretty sure I can turn monsters on and follow them from where they come.
If they did Minecraft with, the latest generation fucking Unreal graphics, like, so it rivaled Red Dead Redemption 2 or something, right? But it was basically Minecraft. I might actually get into it.
I just don't think great graphics while hitting a rock is going to make that much of a difference.
Do you know the funny thing is, I sit there watching Fisk and Fooster playing these games on Steam, where it's a survival game. You're on an island and you've got to mine minerals and chop down trees and build a something, Sean. I don't recognize the name Sean. You're laid in bed, dude. I hope you're not laid there naked. Because as soon as I bring you up on the stage, you might just flick your camera down and you'd be naked. And I don't know you that well. But thanks for switching your camera on. I'm just Just don't be offended that I should be taking precautions when I bring you up. Where's it gone? There it is.
So,
welcome, Sean. How you doing, mate?
Sure, we've talked before. I'm just in bed. I'm not gonna
it's Sean. Jesus,
Right.
yeah, it's Sean. All right, mate. How you doing? All right, yeah, I can bring this down. All right, I know you're not gonna pull on me. How you doing, buddy?
Not too bad.
What have you been up to?
Just here for more chats.
Say that again.
Just here for more chats.
Right. Yeah.
How long
unfortunately,
have you been talking for? How long have you been at it?
I've been at it for 3 hours and 38 minutes, and I'm gonna have to stop in yeah. It's 2:22. I am actually gonna have to wrap it up, man. I was supposed to stop at 2 o'clock, and I've gone way over my own boundary. I'm all right. We've got till 2:30. Right, at 2:30 I have to shut down. So, what have you been up to, Sean? What are your thoughts on what's been happening over the weekend?
You mean politically? The world?
Well, like the protests yesterday in London.
I wasn't following that. I just know that you guys voted more right-leaning politicians, and I didn't know about the protests. I'm in Ireland. I don't know everything about England.
Hang on, what did you say then about the politicians? They're what?
You voted more right-leaning politicians, like Reform.
White-leaning? Is that what you said?
Right-leaning. Sorry, right-leaning. Yeah, it could be also white-leaning as well.
right-leaning. Right, yeah. I hate this whole fucking right-left. Oh, if you support this, you're a far right, or you're a far left, or what. I fucking hate that label. But
no, but it's true,
yeah,
though.
no, they're more
though.
nationalist. They're more nationalist, right? Which would be considered as right-leaning, yeah.
And when I said white accidentally, it's kind of true.
Well, because England is, the demographic has always been white, and the same with Ireland as well. And yeah, we've had multiculturalism for a long time, but the majority of people are and have always been white or able to tan. Like not everybody gets burned by the sun.
Multiculturalism is a harder way of saying dystopia. There's no such thing as multiculturalism. Once you put people together, they start making a new culture, and that new culture may very well involve strife between parts. Almost always, actually.
In the 1970s, there was a big push of Jamaicans to come over to England to come and actually, right, and it worked. It worked really well, and it did create a new culture in London, and well, in England, and there was a criminal element of that, the yardies, but then there was the food, you know, the culinary combination that came out, the introduction of Jamaican food into English culture, and the whole dreadlocks, you know, and braided hair. They did actually assimilate and integrate into English culture.
Yeah, but they also changed the culture. So if the liberals let in loads of immigrants and they were all like not trying to copy the English culture, England would become like Muslim or whatever, a different culture basically.
Well, that's what I mean. If you go south of the river in London, that's where all the Muslims are, and if you go north of the river, that's where all the Jews are, and also the people from Eastern European descent, but not Muslim. South of the river, it's Jamaicans, Jamaicans
nature is
and-
kind of racist on
Well, your audio's gone really bad, mate.
each other because birds are the oak species can hybridize easily, but a lot of animals don't. Even if they're related, they don't breed with each other as much.
Yeah.
I heard.
Well, that, I
Weird.
mean, that is a thing in nature, right? Yeah. You don't get antelopes breeding with pigs. I mean, birds of a feather flock together. You don't get pigeons breeding with eagles.
Yeah, but the problem with humans is that we're all quite Homo sapien. We're pretty similar, but it's just the color and the culture that's different, and maybe the looks as well. And
also the
obviously,
blood
I think
types.
some cultures are better than others.
I think when you get down to it, it's all about, because we've all got blood running through our veins, right? So our blood types are actually way more important than we're ever made aware of in the West, because how many people even know their own blood type or their own blood group? Right? There's a surprising number of people don't, especially in England. And
I don't know that.
They're
It has nothing to
surprisingly
do with,
cagey about it. They're surprisingly cagey about it when you ask them.
But I only know that for blood transfusions. If you need blood transfusion or something, I think.
Right. So I had 27 pints of blood over 3 days, 9 pints a day, transfused through my system because I was bleeding out as they were pumping it in. I was bleeding out faster than they were pumping it in. So at one point they had a nurse. Basically, for 3 days, at some point during the day, there was a nurse that was squeezing the bag to get the blood into me faster because I was the wound in my leg. They were keeping open, and I was just bleeding out from that. But yeah, completely flushed all my own blood. I had an absolute mishmash of God knows whose blood through my system, but I still don't know what my blood group is. Because I was in a coma when they did that.
But what has that to do with the races and stuff? So you think different races have different blood
No,
groups?
I think racism. I think the whole races thing, and this idea of races, is one of the first tools of division that they've used against us. I think there was a time when we didn't think about what somebody's race was.
Yeah, the
Right?
empires.
Maybe their culture.
Roman Empire.
Right, maybe their culture would have been more. But then again, right? We had from 1851, the Crystal Palace, the World Fair, where they told everybody what the cultures were like all over the world, right? This is what they're like in India, and this is what they're like in China, and this is what they're like here, right? And they formed this mind's eye view of what the rest of the world was like and what the other cultures were like, and fed that to all the people that went to Crystal Palace for the World's Fair, right? The exhibition, the first exhibition that they did. But you look at all the pictures and stuff, you know, they're all dressed up in these wonderful costumes, and they all look spick and span, you know, perfect for the camera. And they're all posing, and they all look pissed off. Pissed off that they're being made to stand there in that stupid fucking outfit, right? And, you know, and pose as the image of whatever this culture was overseas.
So you think in the future we won't have one world government in the future, and like everybody will be intermingling?
I have the one world government for you, brother. I call it manifest globalism. That's where we take the Constitution and exert it upon the rest of the earth.
I personally,
Yeah, I wouldn't mind that.
I am waiting for and will welcome the Phoenix to come and set set things right, man. In 2040, and then Nemesis in 2046, just completely leveled the playing field. Complete and total, utter collapse of society, global economy, and everything. And we literally.
That doesn't sound good.
Not the Stone
I'm probably going to
Age,
die.
But well, maybe, but I have no intention of, and I don't think I will be. I think I'll be here in 2050. All right, I'll still be here in 2050, sat around a fucking campfire with a bow strapped on my back and a big fucking mouse Bowie knife, and eating some rabbit that I caught, right? Telling stories around a fire. That's the future I envision. That's the future
swap
I'm
format,
looking
swap
forward to.
layouts. I'll be right back.
All right, mate. OTW.
Yeah, man.
Weren't that right? Listen, that's a whole other thing as well. I think that dynamic is shifting, right? It's gonna shift. We're taking control of our diets and shit, right? Which is going to have a positive effect on our bodies, which is going to mean that we are actually going to live longer. We're not going to live 80 or 90 years. We're going to live 110, 120 years. And we're going to be fighting fit until we're 100. Right?
Yeah, but you need medicine for that. You need modern technology to live longer.
No,
I mean, the Stone Age
don't.
people
No,
only
you
lived
don't.
up to
No, you don't. No, you
35?
don't. No, you don't. No, you don't. No, you don't. That's an absolute bullshit lie for science. That's bullshit. No, you don't. All you need is to eat properly and think properly. If you eat properly and think properly, then you will live longer. And that's just a fact.
No, but I heard the scientists now are bringing in like vaccines and gene therapy to make us live longer, and I'll accept
well,
that.
it's going to make us
I
live
don't know.
shorter. It's not going to make us live longer. It's going to make us live shorter. That's a lie. That's come from the hubris of science, which basically advocated for the coof, the creation of the coof, and the subsequent jibby jab solution for the coof. That all came out of there. That was their brainchild. Science, right? And scientists and doctors. Doctors have no integrity. The doctors doing this shit have no fucking integrity, and they're not doing it for the right reasons. It's all to create. It's all to feed a business model. There is no desire to make people live longer, or to cure anything, because where's the business in that?
Well, you can make a lot of
money to be made in that.
alive. You can make a lot of money keeping people alive.
Yeah,
I mean, that's what drug dealers do. They want you to stay alive and addict to it. They don't want to kill you straight away.
They want to kill you slowly from birth, which is why they're getting rid of real food, and they're replacing it with their fake food that was created. It's plant-based. Oh, it's plant-based. Yeah, plant machinery based. It was created in a fucking laboratory and reconstituted in a factory. So there are no
Yeah, but agriculture is very industrial now. I mean, the factories, the feeding, the crops needed, the water. It's a lot of technology involved in modern animal agriculture. Back in the day, we ate meat, but we probably ate way less than nowadays. Like
we don't need
50%
right.
less.
We like back in the 80s, we didn't eat meat every day. But you know, it was still a thing back in the 80s and the 70s and the 80s that you ate meat on Sunday. That was more. That was the real. That was when you had a roast beef. You had a leg of lamb or whatever, roast beef, and you ate meat on Sunday, and then the rest of the week was made up of cold cuts. Right, but you didn't. So you didn't eat meat every day, and the whole fish on Friday thing as well. Eating fish on Friday.
But even in the medieval times, most the peasants didn't eat much meat. They probably ate once a week meat. It was the
grew
rich
up
people
on
that
a
ate
pig
meat.
farm. Meat was not just a daily staple, it was a large portion of my diet. I'm allergic to beans.
Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, if the whole planet was richer and like Western lifestyle, you would need way more land for the animal agriculture. A plant-rich diet requires less land to feed people. I'm thinking about wildlife. If you want to save the wildlife, you need to reduce agriculture. And the best way to reduce agriculture,
sir. I do believe the wildlife's going to be fine. It will still be wild. It may or may not survive, but we'll get to that later.
Gentlemen, all I can say is I wish you'd arrived sooner so that we could have spent longer talking. But it is now 24 to 3 minutes to 3. I've got to start getting ready for work. I've got to have a shower and stuff and get something to eat and get myself ready to go and sing to people for 3 hours, bring in loads of people, make loads of money for the people on the business.
Much love, brother. You have a good day.
So thank you very much for joining me, Sass.
All right.
Sean.
Bye. Thanks for having me on.
Ricardo as well earlier. Shout out to the chat room, OTW, Morgan, Dana, thank you for the message. Anybody else in chat? Mars Bars, is that Marlene? Marlene Brown, is that you? Mars Bars. You're the only. And RJ, Curious Squirrel. If you're still around, Dominic, Paul, Dr. E. Right, that's it. I can't. It's not giving me any more. So much love, people. I see y'all soon. Peace.
Kind of funny. Is he all there? Like, mentally?
I think so. He's just an odd guy. It's kind of weird.
I mean, should we be worried?
No.
All right.
No.
Right, the shop is closed. Everybody get out. Time to go home. Come on.
It's only 2:45.
Yes, but it's my shop. Come on, go home. Bye-bye. Thank you.
That's hardly fair.
It's not fair at all. Get out. Bye-bye.
I expect better service.
We'll expect away. Get out. Bye-bye.
Shut it down!